This podcast is brought to you by North Mountain Goshawks. Check out northmountaingoshawks.com and put in a deposit for next year's hunting partner. Also, check out sportingchancepod.com for all your Sporting Chance podcast merchandise. All of our merch is limited edition, screen printed, and drawn by actual artists. We do not use any AI here, so cop that merch while you can. All right, folks. Check us out on YouTube going forward. Every week, we are going to post the podcast in video form. We resisted it for a while because we really wanted to do this in person with a set to make it, visually appealing. And then on top of it, there was the logistical factor of having to worry about video, when we're kind of operating on a shoestring budget and just doing this with a very small group of people. But nevertheless, the demand was there, so we decided to do it. So check it out on YouTube. If you're not already subscribed, please subscribe. It helps out a lot. And if you can, just start listening and watching there on youtube.com. All right, guys, enjoy the episode. Welcome back, everyone, to the Sporting Chance podcast. We have a very special episode today. We're joined by the entire Layman family. We have Tahlia Layman, Seth Layman, and naturally Steve Layman. Thank you all for coming on.
You're welcome. Thanks for having us.
Yeah, thank you.
You guys are fun.
That's an endorsement if I've ever heard one.
Having been to Pennsylvania and to get to know Casey and all the crew back there, it's a fun group.
Real animated group of people. Our conversation yesterday, Casey.
It was in New Jersey, excuse me.
It was. Close enough, though. It's right next door.
Yeah.
How do you think the culture on the East Coast compares to the West Coast Falconers?
Culture-wise, you've got culture-wise, you've got a lot more population squeezed in. And I was surprised when I was back there how much game you've got. I thought it was going to be wall-to-wall houses and buildings. And I was really, really surprised how many rabbits and everything else and bear trails. Yeah.
That spot's a little bit of an anomaly, though.
East Coast are like a bunch of raccoons. They stay in their houses and you guys run wild.
Yes. Well, something about that disturbance that humans create, causes certain types of wildlife to really do well.
We always used to joke around when we were out tooling around for a place to find hawk in Colorado or Eastern Washington, wherever. It was like, any place there's old farm equipment rotting into the ground, that's where you go hawking to find rabbits.
Exactly.
Yes. Yeah. I think that's universal.
Yeah, exactly.
So, Tahlia, how long have you been a falconer?
As long as I can remember, I've been out in the field with my dad. I've always been so interested in animals, and it's kind of been something that I feel like I really started when I was so young, that like falconry has always been something that's in my life. So when I tell people about it, they're like, oh my gosh, what's that? And I'm like, oh, it's always been what I know. But I actually don't have my license yet. I'm hoping to get it this fall. I have studied some. I need to do quite a bit more. But I got my first red tail
2 years ago.
2 years ago, under my dad's permit, and it's been really fun.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And Seth, how long have you been a falconer?
I grew up with it the same way, but Jerry Ferlini gave us, he had a female Harris hawk that there was a problem with the humidity in the incubator, and it ended up with like a really badly twisted leg. And so it had kind of like one foot that was turned in and didn't work perfectly well, and then one straight leg. And Jerry, he couldn't sell it or anything, and so he wanted to know if I wanted it. And so I was 12 years old, birds under dad's permit. Kind of, Tahlia forgot to mention that she flew a Harris hawk for 3 years too.
You trained that bird with me, though.
Yeah, we trained that together. And then, so I killed a few rabbits with that twisted leg Harris hawk named Irene when I was 12, and then I got my permit when I was 14. And I was telling Casey yesterday that since then I'm 51. I just turned 51.
Okay.
And we've
damn.
She doesn't let a lot of opportunities go by. And I think every single season since I was 12, I've flown hawks and caught game. So, and
that's awesome.
I was telling Casey too. I think probably not a hawking day goes by that he and I haven't talked about it. So
every time they're over.
Yeah,
I love it.
And
Steve, have you been doing falconry long?
What's that?
Have you been doing falconry long?
Yeah. I was just relating that when I grew up, hawks were being, bounties. The Department of Wildlife was paying bounties on killing hawks. So there were no regulations. So we, if I could climb a tree and get a kestrel or red tail or magpies or ravens, I grew up starting from the age of about 12 with my mom was, as we talked about, she allowed me and my buddies to keep hawks. And so right off, we started hunting with them because that was the whole idea.
Yeah. Since you brought it up, have you ever had a raven?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I bet those are cool pets.
I was involved with the Woodland Park Zoo. This would be in the late 60s, early 70s, coming up with protocols to release injured birds of prey back to the wild. And that's how I ended up on San Juan Island. And we got young ravens to turn loose. And that was a hoot.
Yeah, they're funny birds.
Yeah, and I've got a family group of ravens that come by my house every day. I put eggs out for them if they're getting too old, and put out dead chickens for them to eat. Do that family group come by here?
Well, they nest right here.
Yes, okay,
they fledged 3 kids this year, and they're flying around, wipe out all of our eggs. They learn to go inside the chicken coop.
Yes.
Oh my gosh! What now?
You can't really legally get pet ravens anymore, right?
No. I figured Steve probably had them back before the regs were.
Yes, I did.
Established.
As a matter of fact, my wife Kathy and I, when we first started dating in high school, I had ravens and my prairie falcons and red tails, and that's the way I determined who I was going to marry. I had to be a good mom and tolerate all the birds, and Kathy was great.
That's good.
Seth's mom, she was awesome.
Yeah. Mom always tells a story about I think it was an owl that you had riding around in the car, and like on some first date, the thing took a shit down the back of her dress. You had to go they had to do whatever passed for a date in my dad's eyes. Mom had to go with hawk shit down the back of her dress,
her sundress, and I got to clean up the owl crap down her back.
We don't believe for half a second that you've ever cleaned up hawk shit.
Right.
He's like Radagast on The Hobbit. Just got hawk poop running down his face. Casey, what were you? Would you think your wife would tolerate that?
I mean, she does to a degree. Owls? The owl stories. That's like child's play because they don't slice.
That's right.
So it's different if it's just like dropping rather than like on my countertop and an eye just like shoots it 6 feet across the room.
Yes, exactly. That's right. Yeah,
exactly.
That's a little bit more intense, but she's dealt with that before though. So
she's
reluctantly. Yeah, she's great woman, excellent woman.
All right. So, interestingly enough, it's not lost upon us that we have 3 generations of falconers sitting here right now, which is very unusual in America. I'm sure in England, the old country, it's probably a semi-common occurrence. But as far as America is concerned, it's pretty unusual and pretty cool. So, Seth, what was it like being raised by Steve? Did he employ operant conditioning on you growing up?
I'm sure. But, I think that the thing about the sort of next generation doing it, I mean, my brothers and sisters, so I've got 2 brothers and a sister, and none of them are really interested in falconry at all. And I've got 3 kids, and the other 2 are not interested in falconry at all. And so I think part of it has to just be, genuine interest, right? But I think that there's definitely, I was thinking about it while mowing the lawn after you and I spoke, Casey, but number one, it's got to be fun for kids. And the number one thing I think that is interesting, I was laughing about is, when I was old enough to tag along, we were almost always out. When I'm sure when I was younger we did other things, but I remember mainly being out flying goshawks, red tails, Harris hawks on rabbits, pheasants, quail, ducks, whatever, right? And I remember going out with the guys flying long wings and just being bored out of my mind, right? Like for everybody out there, if you want your kids to be interested in falconry, do not let them anywhere near a long wing. It's, I mean, if you imagine an 11-year-old, 10-year-old, whatever, you can chase rabbits, throw sticks, yell, holler, dogs, birds, people, laugh, no restrictions, whatever, and then you go out with the long wingers and it's like, don't slam the car door, everybody be quiet, don't flush the ducks, stand around for 30 minutes while the thing takes a pitch. Oh, by the way, it flew off and now we've got some messed up Easter egg hunt trying to track this bird down. And Dad didn't really, he like limited that so that every time we were in the field, we were just like having a good time.
Yeah. And the other thing I did in the falconry community, I was working hard at the time, putting together a business. And sometimes I'd have to work on weekends. And good friend Jerry Fellini, I would drive you over to Jerry's and dump him off for the weekend. So
not just Jerry, out here, Dan Pike, Jerry Fellini, Roger Huffless, Toby Bradshaw, Lee Mann, like all those guys would take me out even when Dad couldn't go. And, and they just treated me like another person along for the ride. And so I just fell in love with game hawking. I remember there was a big controversy when I was a little kid I told you about this, Casey, there was a big controversy, a bunch of the guys, that were flying long wings kind of thought that the wanton slaughter of game animals by all the guys with short wings was somehow inappropriate. Here in this big controversy in Washington State, and I'm looking around like, these guys are having all the fun. I've been out with both parties. I know who's having all the fun, seemingly, at least to a 13-year-old, right? And I told Casey, I remember asking Dad, how come certain people are so upset about this? And Dad's comment was, the people that are upset have forgotten that people are more important than hawks. And it's like, there you go, right? Like we spent a lot of time with good people just having fun. And that made it seem like something I wanted to do and drive and do myself. And I parted ways with Dad on a lot of stuff that we either disagreed on, or I just chose to disagree because I didn't want to do it his way. And then, and he was totally fine with that too. Like that's a big thing is as falconers, we all think we figure something out and then that's got to be the way. Dad was really good at just like letting me run off and do it however I wanted to do it.
Was there any instances that like stand out to you? Some like separations of thought or philosophy that kind of you parted ways and it was anything stick out?
Late season.
Well, he's talking about early season versus late season rituals. Tahlia can probably expand. But you know what? It's interesting is my very first red tail, I kind of thought I had this, I'm like 14 years old and I think I have this all figured out, right? And
I've never done that before.
Man, this red tail. And Dad's telling me like, look, you need to be doing these things to make sure it's in shape, and you need to be doing these things. And I'm flying it outside on the creance and I'm not managing weight correctly. And he's like, okay. And so he comes home one day, how'd the red tail do? And it's gone. And just flew off. And I couldn't get it back, and we never saw it again. That was my very first bird. And then the second one was a demon. I mean, we just killed tons of rabbits with that thing.
Yeah.
I was 15 or something.
He was mentioning our falconry community with Jerry Fellini. So you'll see if I remember this story right. So he takes off with Jerry. They go to Eastern Washington, catch up with all the rest of them, and they're on the way back, and there's a long line of cars that's going really slow over the Snoqualmie Pass. And Jerry decides, what's wrong?
You better let me take this one.
Okay,
over.
All right.
My mom was very doubtful about the influence of falconers on her 13-year-old kid. Right. Actually, I was 15 then because it was right during the Iraq War, and I had a red tail named Scud.
Yeah.
And so mom was very concerned about the influence that some of these guys had on me. Like, just mom worrying. Right.
Right.
So
mom might have been onto something.
Exactly. So, we were in Tri-Cities hawking, and, I was feeling pretty good. My red tail did well and killed rabbits. And those guys, of course, flying their Harris hawks and goshawks always killed stuff. And we're driving back over the pass, and there's a long line of cars coming over for the holiday weekend. And Jerry decides to just blow. It turns out they're behind a cop it's a sheriff, and he's going slow.
Oh my
and
gosh.
Jerry, being Jerry, is, pardon our French here, but he's just like, oh, these cops. So he goes barreling by this because it's a King. He's smart enough to realize it's not highway patrol. It's King County Sheriff, and it's not the right jurisdiction. So we go by. I'm like, well, this ought to be good. And then Jerry flips this cop off. And I'm like, looking down in the seat.
Jerry sounds cool.
Hey,
Jerry sounds awesome, right? He really was.
Oh, yeah.
And so so sure enough, like this cop takes the bait, puts his lights on. And I think to myself, Jerry pulls over. Well, first he thinks he's not going to pull over. He makes the cop follow him for like 2 miles.
Oh my
before
gosh.
he pulls over. So then he pulls over, and I'm like, oh boy, this is not good. And the officer comes to the window, asks for license and registration. And I just figured, like, I've always been taught, hands on the wheel, be respectful, blah, 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 blah. And Jerry says, who the f- do you think you are pulling me over? You're not even you're out of the county. Blah. He's got a litany of reasons why this cop has no business pulling him over. And the cop is stunned. I am stunned. The first thing out of the officer's mouth is, what kind of example are you setting for your son? And Jerry looks at me, looks right back at the cop, and goes, not my fucking kid. and he got off. The cop was supposed to let him go because it was like a misdemeanor that had to be. He was going to try to find someone to get a ticket
in the car with.
Oh yeah, the cop had his girlfriend with him, and it was just like
in the squad car.
Squad car.
Jerry got that all figured out
because he's like off duty. He's in King County. He's not in whatever the circumstance was that. As an adult, he was able to ascertain like this guy.
Jerry figured out that fast when he passed it.
Yeah. So, like
Jerry
I said,
sounds awesome.
The short wingers all have all the fun.
That's true. I think that's to this day, that's still true.
Yeah.
Yeah. Jerry knew his rights. That's what it was.
That's right. Exactly right. But you asked about the way we differ. And I was telling Casey this earlier, it's not so much that we fundamentally disagree on certain things. Right. I think we disagree on most stuff. I think we go about things differently sometimes. And I think I took it upon myself to gain understanding by disagreeing and then trying to prove dad wrong and then coming up with either a different way to do it or just finally just being like, you're right. And I think that I kind of go things about it a little more pragmatically. Just out of the pure need to understand, because if you ask dad what time it is, he'll tell you how to build a watch. And then
right, yeah.
You're trying to sort out which is great because I don't know how to build a watch. If you need to know how to build a watch, right? But that would result in sort of me spinning off and doing my own thing. And then we always
talk about it,
come back together and just go hawking and have fun. Yeah.
Figure out what we're, Aaron, being an educator, there's a book. Let's see. Anyway, in this particular book, there's two types of learning: firsthand learning and secondhand learning. Western civilization is really good at writing things down, and most of our education is teaching what is already learned. And firsthand learning, What is Art For is the name of the book. And firsthand learning is coming up with your own ideas, testing them out, figuring out what works and doesn't work, and then codifying it. And that's what I let Seth do. If he had an idea, work it out. That's firsthand learning.
It's actually the fundamental problem with our licensing system, because
that's right.
It's the reason that Tahlia, the question is, well, why not just do all the studying and then go get your test and be a falconer and have a bird on your permit, which is what most people have to do. But growing up like I did, in a household with a falconer, and then like she did with a household with a falconer, you have this opportunity to do the fun stuff first, because taking tests sucks, right? It's boring. So it's a necessary thing. You have to check the box and get it out of the way. But what's that?
Resume builder.
Resume builder. Yeah, there you go. Yeah. But I mean, you tell about it. Like,
yeah, I've always wanted my license. And I mean, for a while I was like, oh, I want to be the youngest person to get my license. And I actually did independent study in school to try to study for it. But of course I got nothing done. I tried, but it's hard for me to kind of read a textbook and learn and keep the information. I do a lot better in like when I'm out with my dad and he asks me something, or conversations. That helps me a lot more. And I think that I just never had that real need to become a licensed falconer, because I always was just able to fly off your permit and like under your name, because I already have so much going on in like my life with school and horses and all that. So I think it was mainly just, and when you have the opportunity to do all the fun stuff and not have to do it, it's kind of like, okay, well, why do it?
Right.
Because I still get all of the in the field, seeing the flights, training the birds, trapping the birds.
We were just talking about this morning, and now she's ready to get licensed. Well, she's 15 and has a learner's permit.
Yeah.
So in 1 year, she'll have her driver's license, and then she can go hawking by herself. Now she has to have a license.
Yeah. And I always have wanted to get one. It just finding the time to really learn the information, and especially I want to become a vet. So all the like medical stuff is really cool for me. The hard part is like the scientific names and all that. I'm kind of like, but
Which shouldn't be important on a falconry test. We have that problem here with our test in North Carolina. Steve, I don't know, Seth, did you live in Georgia at all when Steve did? Or
no, I just lived vicariously through him, listening to hawking stories. Yeah.
So Steve, on our state test, there's questions about like prairie falcons, and there's questions for apprentices about like what is a musket? That stuff's not important to an apprentice. They can learn that later. They need to learn about red-tailed hawks and maybe a little bit about kestrels.
Yeah, the basic husbandry. I think some of that stuff on the test is really about measuring. Have you regardless of if useless information or not, have you been willing to put in the time? And I suppose there's some stuff like that that's reasonable, but I think that it's especially for a younger kid, right? Like it's 200 in Washington, it's like 200 questions and 200. A lot of it, scientific, medicine, scientific stuff that's not actually relevant to the everyday husbandry and success of flying a hawk.
The Latin name for a red-tailed hawk is not important to an apprentice to be a successful falconer.
Right.
So much of what I needed to learn to be able to do falconry and keep my birds happy, I learned a lot of that from my dad about like weight, keeping their weight up, making like the bird comes first before. If you want to have a good flight and want to have good time out in the field, you have to have your bird up to weight and good training and have good muscle, because all of that is what sets you up for success. And that's what I learned. So now that I know that, and I'm going back and learning all the textbook, like Latin names and stuff, I'm kind of like, oh, well, I already know a lot of this. So like, why do I need that?
Well, Tahlia, Casey's got...
I was just waiting for him to bring it up.
Casey has severe documented learning disabilities. So he was able to do the falconry test with accommodations.
You actually offered that to me because we called them once. I have ADHD and dyslexia. So
that's the least of Casey's concern.
We're not going to be able to. She's not going to be able to do it. But now that I'm older, I don't know if they're going to offer it to me.
I failed the first time.
They will. So they had to have special accommodations for Casey's mom to hold his hand.
No.
But the apple doesn't fall far.
You can't just have your blankie or whatever.
That's right.
Yeah. Aaron's got speaking of blankies, Aaron has a blankie on his lap right now.
There it is.
Every episode, I don't know why. Yeah, I failed the test the first time, and it was like all the important stuff I knew, and then all like the technical stuff.
Yeah.
I like didn't know, and like some of it was stupid, like the difference between a Kestrel and a Merlin. And I was like, I don't know why. Like, looking back on it, I'm like, it's just the flight style is different. Like it was that simple. It was just like flight style
for an apprentice to know, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, but I do see Seth's point that it's like, show that you're actually, because you have to understand that most people, the majority of people, I would say, they just want a pet bird. So they want to take the test just to get a pet bird, and it's like they may not. After they get there, they pass the test, they may not look into the rest of the information or care what their sponsor says. So the test is basically like the first line of defense to protect the bird and, from poor husbandry, not knowing, medications, or at least being able to house your bird correctly. I don't know.
It really makes people, if you're serious about it, like it kind of tests that.
Yeah. Yeah, that's
the sponsorship program itself should do that, though. The test could be a much lower, very practical, pragmatic test, and would serve its purpose. And then the sponsorship program itself, you have a qualified falconer to vouch for the commitment of this individual, which to me would go a lot farther than were they a good test taker, right?
Yeah, but it doesn't matter. This is actually a discussion that's going on right now on Facebook. Is the sponsor basically has no the sponsor? You take all the responsibility. You have to take this person on, sign all these paperwork. You're responsible for them, but really they have no power over the person.
Yeah,
at all. Like if somebody's not doing what you say and then you fail them and say, listen, I told you to do this, that, and the other thing, you didn't do it, so I'm not passing you off to get your general. The apprentice can drop their sponsor, which is insane, and then go get another sponsor that's like just going to say yes to them or whatever, and then just sign them off and just push them along. And that happens all the time in every state.
Yeah,
and it's
true.
ridiculous.
You do bring up a good point.
So for all of you apprentices out there, you need to show some appreciation for that person who is willing to take you on and, put their name on the line for you to help you get into this wonderful sport.
Bro, they don't care, dude. Come on.
They don't care. So
they know who they are.
Before we get too far away from this.
Just kidding. Everybody relax.
I wanted to ask you guys about the early versus late trapped redtail. Explain to us this division here.
What is that?
Do one of you like more late season red tails more than early, and vice versa?
Well, we found I got my bird late season, my last bird. We kind of have. I mean, I've never had any other bird, but this bird has been great for me and is just amazing in the field. And we kind of always been like, well, the later in the season, their instincts, the stupid ones kind of die off, which sounds bad, but so many red tails die in, what is the percentage in the first year? Like
very high. I mean, the juvenile mortality rate is above probably 80 or 90%.
So, I mean, what my dad and grandpa have talked about, and I've just kind of overheard sitting in the backseat for hours, listening to them talk, is that whenever they found an early season bird, they're still great and you can still train them really well, but they almost don't have that like primary instinct, or it is there, but it might just not be as good. Or they don't know quite as well about flying or moving through trees or navigating, or when you make a flight, like really going for it. Sometimes they kind of fly off or something, and they almost have never experienced what it's like to really need and have that hunger for food. Because it's easier to get game in the early season, and then it's kind of
Yeah. I think that I think that's all right. I mean, I think the divide, I don't think there's a right or wrong answer. The late season birds are fun, I think, because number one, I mean, we've trapped butterball fat red tails in late September that are just, I mean, and it takes forever. It takes forever to gain kind of motivation. Like there's some topics along the strobe light that you guys had in the last podcast that I disagree with. And because you can definitely set yourself up for a problem with red tails if the bird you trap is so fat that it is challenging to achieve weight reduction in a timely manner, then you set yourself up for a host of problems that you don't have if you trap a bird in winter who's a survivor. They very often respond much more quickly and move through the training process faster. But there's an argument made for just a brancher that knows how to fly in the wind and doesn't have a bunch of other information in its head and just learns how to hunt the species in an environment that you want to hunt in too. So, What do you guys think? I mean, what do you guys do out east?
Well, we're just lucky to get a red tail. Last year was rough for everybody.
Apprentices. Oh, go ahead, Casey.
No, it's just like last year was like a joke among everybody that it was like, anybody see a red tail? Send me, like it was like really hard, like road trapping and stuff. People were not seeing anything. And even the numbers on the ridge were down for some reason. We're like hesitant to talk about it on the show just because I don't want like the feds to hear it and then be like, oh, red tails are in decline, so we have to limit your take. So, but because they were looking for something. But no, I flown a bird that I pulled. I trapped way too early. I was super excited, and I did too much with it. Right, like feeding on the glove and calling to the glove 5 million times, and then the bird ended up like starting to attack people, attack me, tried to kill my dogs, smash my friend in the head. It just got real imprinty.
Oh wow!
And then like the later bird, and that was probably like the stage I got it, which was like the September 1st, and it was like still hot out, and then too much training, so it was like a mixture of a lot. Obviously, the birds that are been through some stuff will be a little bit more like I would say maybe like hesitant, just because they're more mature mentally, so the training might be a little bit more. But like you said, Seth, like they know what the food is. They know they need it. If it's right in front of them, if they could just get over themselves and their fear to eat, then the training can just progress faster than a bird that's just kind of like has no idea what's going on. It's warm out. They're fat. They're just, so it's like an age old debate. But there is also another debate that's like, as falconers, should it be our responsibility to trap the birds that are in that 80% of mortality and help them along? Like, or should we, and the ones that make it till late October, early November, should those be the ones that we leave alone to be the breeding? You know what I mean? Like, it's like I've heard people say that before.
Those are the haggards, the haggard red tails. The mortality rate, is very high in that first year, but the mortality rate continues. That there's really good research looking at what percentage of any 1 year's hatching of red tails make it to, or prairie falcons or whatever it is, 10 years later. And when I cut my teeth, it was on prairie falcons. And I had IS prairie falcons that I hunted with, and I had early season passage birds. And then I began to realize, as a biologist, that selective pressure and the learning, it's like a very, very long wild hack. And the best ones I had were the November, January passage prairies. And like Seth said, once I got my manning techniques refined and trapped, with no fear, I covered myself up, covered them up in the hood, established a secondary reinforcer, bring them through that. That time we weren't using, we started using the strobe at that time to bring it along, and then build their body conditioning back up. And one of the things I'm learning right now about mitochondria that's in the muscle, those late season birds physiologically or have more mitochondria in the muscle, and they burn through food really fast, and it causes them to think differently. Like with Tahlia's late season passage red tail, she also stood on a 10-foot ladder and did vertical jumping and adding weight to it even before they got into the field. So that bird went into the field metabolically really, really fit. And fitness, not just strength, but the ability to, you can see it. You give a bird a full crop, how long does it take to go through that full crop? These birds that are high mitochondria in the muscle, they burn through stuff really quick.
Makes sense.
I'll say this, and I wonder if this term came from falconry, a bird in the hand's worth two in the bush sometimes. And for an apprentice or somebody who really needs a bird, even if they're an established licensed falconer, you may want to take that opportunity to get that really nice looking bird early season and figure the rest out along the way.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's another point of like just a difference in philosophy, because Dad and I both agree completely. I think that the advantages of physical conditioning are indisputable, but I am much more likely to get a bird to the field and killing stuff as quickly as possible to the detriment of high physical conditioning because of the advantages of taking them to game as quickly as possible. And so I will engineer and orchestrate, including baggies, an early psychological output for the bird that is where it knows that the only big meal it's ever getting is killing something. And then we will, and like for Tahlia's bird, and what actually we did there was that bird went through training quite quickly. Tahlia did a great job. And what's that?
Hooding was the main thing.
Yeah, hooding was a little challenge at first. You're hooding your first bird, but still you got it done. Yeah. And then we simultaneously went to the field and started killing stuff, while then it's gradually increasing the physical conditioning so that we could expect more and more as the bird's learning curve for following the dogs, following the falconer, expecting the flush, things like that improve. Yeah. So,
but he also makes my point in that when this red tail was a late season bird, physiologically, it was really well developed.
Correct. That's the advantage to the late season bird. Yeah.
Physiologically well developed. And Seth's skills and the way he does it, the birds don't have to be ripped back to the point where they start catabolizing muscle and mitochondria. I think it's Casey, did I send that article to you on the white-crowned sparrows and the mitochondria? If not,
I'm not sure.
I'll send it to you. It essentially answered a bunch of observations that we've made over the years, and why some of the birds that are in good shape and they've been in good shape long enough, and that the muscles aren't any bigger, but metabolically all of a sudden they're off the charts. Right. Now with all this new information coming in about the mitochondria.
Is mitochondria, is maybe a stupid question, but is this like is that like a reference to like how you hear in athletes like fast twitch muscle fiber? Like some people, they're very like they don't have that fast twitch, but it could possibly be trained into them. You know what I mean?
Let me go down, how the watch works thing here.
Yeah, right.
In a cell, whether it be a brain cell or a muscle cell, the way the cell generates energy for it to metabolically do what it's doing, there's the mitochondria. Okay. And the mitochondria can either increase in numbers or decrease. And that in this white-crowned study case, white-crowned sparrows, before migration, they could look at the mitochondria, and let's say the mitochondria in the cell was 10. Photoperiod increases, they get ready to migrate, and the mitochondrial level goes up to 100.
Wow.
So their ability to generate, so they fly all night long, fly 250 miles in a night. And then they get onto the wintering ground and the mitochondria drops off. They now, instead of burning all that, they put on fat, and then the mitochondrial level increases and they migrate back. And I noticed with now as I look back at the birds that I would do the vertical jumping, And I just talked to Tom Cox again to go over the numbers. I think I mentioned the last one is that Tom only flies on weekends and he does vertical jumping, and he noticed the increase in flight performance he was getting. And 1 year with a Falcon, he got 75,000 vertical feet of vertical climbing, during the hawking season. And then that same bird, he put another 20,000 vertical feet, just jumping during the week. And on weekends, he'd go hawking. And these birds flew really good. And I think I mentioned in that last podcast about a bird that I jumped to the fist that had a broken wing. I just thought I'd build up muscle, but what we're really doing is increasing the capacity to burn through energy really quick. A bird can starve to death if it has too high number of mitochondria. So they very quickly take the mitochondria out. And if taxed physically, they very quickly put it on.
I see.
So here's what time it is.
Yeah.
Right. I think so. I think all that's correct, but I think that simply you can understand it that lean muscle mass is expensive.
Yeah.
Right. So it takes calories, and so if birds have lean muscle mass, they need more caloric input to handle that. Late season passage birds have been through some period of hunger. There's just almost no question, right?
And they've got high mitochondria levels.
Right. So they've been through moments of, oh shit, I might die. Right. And they, just by virtue of existing in the wild, whether it's migrating or storms or whatever, they have a certain amount of lean muscle mass that's expensive. And the other thing that's unique about late season birds is they've also had to work through fear events, right?
Yes.
So like in the experience of a young bird, I've got this young one flying around out here that my local one raised, it's whistling. And, they're just dumb. They don't know what to be afraid of. And so they've gotten over things in order to secure food, right? They've gotten over fear of whatever it is, semis on the freeway, right? And the impetus to overcome things like that is the driver of lean muscle mass is pretty powerful. So when you go to the field, they've got lean muscle mass. They're like, man, not only are they capable of doing what needs to be done to kill game, but they are driven to do it in a way that's different than a bird that is in low muscle mass condition. And so, but the fundamental point, though, I think, like you mentioned, Tom's Cox. Tom's a great guy who he, perfect example of take something to the nth degree. It's also wildly unnecessary. 70,000 feet of jumping, as long as it's fun doing it, have at it. I'm not doing 70,000 vertical feet of jumping because, like, you guys had Nick Fox on, right?
Yes.
When I was there, we took hybrids and pure sakers, pure jurors, pure peregrines, and hybrids of all of them, and conditioned them exclusively by lure flying, and expected 10 or 15 minute ringing flights on crows that, I mean, metabolically, I just can't believe that I've ever been around or seen birds that are in any better physical condition than that. And that's no vertical jumping. That's just lure flying. But I would, just knowing what I know of flying, vertical jumping is powerful for long wings because they're flying in a stall, right? And I think that the amount of vertical jumping that Dad's talking about Tom doing is a lot more physical work than the lure flying that I was doing for Nick's birds in England. But those birds had plenty of energy to do incredible flights across, time and distance.
But it was the birds you were lure flying, those muscles were working. They're like the white-crowned sparrows. When the photoperiod was right and the instinct kicked in to migrate, they automatically would put that conditioning on. The mitochondrial level in the muscle, without exercise, just change in season, they'd put it on.
Yeah, but like by photoperiod, is that's how it's the body it's being triggered by photoperiod?
Yeah, in that case, the photoperiod will kick in, and then they're on their breeding territories to raise their babies. All the young babies have fledged, and they're staging the photoperiod. They're eating. The mitochondrial level is low. They pack on all the fat, and then the mitochondrial level goes way up. And the way they did this, they killed the sparrows, and they did.
But you're talking about an evolutionary switch.
Yes.
That's unique, that's species specific, right?
Yeah.
And so we don't know to what degree that actually happens with raptors.
We can hypothesize.
Right.
But stooping to lure develops all the coordination, feet going out. I've got those great shots, feet going out, laying back, and then they're stooping. And when you're stooping, you have to start out slowly and then increase the numbers. These birds' beaks are wide open. So the photoperiod, the mitochondria kicks in. It's being stimulated by the exercise photoperiod. And these birds are great. I had the privilege of going and staying there with Nick and Seth and watching birds fly. And I had some experience flying prairie falcons, just, stooping to lure, jumping to the fist, and getting ringing flights on at that time. We had stuff we could get ringing flights on that just blow us away. And our birds were in such good shape that this one imprint I got from Tom, up from Canada, Felissa was her name, and jumped her.
Tom Donald.
Yeah. And this spot we hunted on, the Yakima Canyon's close. The Haggard Prairies would come in and hunt in the Ellensburg, and our flights would get broken up by these Haggard Prairies. Well, Felissa got in good shape to the point where she chased the Haggards off. And he got to the point, if they hung around, she brought 5 Haggard females to the ground, and we traded off. And Joe Gerlach with Clover.
Yeah, we had, and I had an apprentice in college who had the same thing that Dad's describing. That's another big advantage of late season birds is they're less apt to get run off by haggards. So unlike you guys, apparently with your scarcity of the endangered red tail out there, flipping everywhere, and especially as you get closer to springtime, you go to a hawking spot and the local pair will come in and try to run your bird off. Late season birds, they know how to tolerate that versus the youngsters that they'll just shut down, either quit hunting or move or end up low in a tree or what have you.
My Harris hawk used to get scared off by haggards all the time. They're different, but obviously my Harris hawk's a Harris hawk. But my late season bird was really good about it. I don't think she ever flew away from a haggard.
She completely ignored him.
Is this about Miss Shuffle? Ryan's?
No. I had an apprentice in college that flew a really, really good jackrabbit hawk red tail, and she would do this. She would do the same thing that Joel's bird did, which was drag a haggard that was harassing her off of a high tension power line, and then we'd have to go. And of course, we would actively, we're just too worried someone's going to get hurt, right? Like the trained bird end up hurt or the haggard get hurt, so we would avoid it. But they will, the strong birds will do that. But the thing is you don't, like I've done the thing where you do 200-300 vertical jumps and get the birds as strong as you can. And what's very clear, at least for the type of hawking that we do here, is that there's very dramatic diminishing returns after 50 or 60 jumps. If you can get 50 or 60 strong jumps in, especially with the weight that Tahlia was doing, because you can spend so much time, right? Yeah. Like just trying to, and so getting higher on the ladder, adding the weight if you want, doing someplace between 30 jumps. And then after that, there's a very dramatic diminishing return on the improvement that you get in the field relative to how much volume of conditioning you're doing inside.
Gotcha. That makes sense.
At least that's my opinion.
Yeah. Makes sense. Just you guys hawk squirrels out there with red tails?
No, not really.
Yeah, that's the problem.
My bird went for one this week.
Yeah, we kill them with the goshawks. The problem here is that once the squirrels get into an evergreen canopy, you're toast because you can't find them.
Yeah, when you climb up,
we have evergreen canopy everywhere,
and then they bail. Are new invasive.
What was that, Casey?
No, I was going to say that's when you climb the pine and then they bail.
Well, that might be a lone pine. This is 40 acres of Doug fir canopy, or more, right? Like there's no.
No, I know what you're saying.
I'm
more or less making a joke
in the pine forest back there with Elda and live oaks and those pines. And that's one Erin all redhead. And I took her back there, and then that imprint female bee, and squirrel hawking was awesome back there.
Yeah. I only brought that up because I found, just like with imprint goshawks and fitness and even red tails, and even Aaron, your bird last year, remember you're having all that trouble early on, and that bird was very special, and Aaron was very patient and got that bird turned around. But early on, the bird, like, basically my point is like, you can get an imprint goshawk, from my experience, like insanely fit, just chasing squirrels, like, earlier in the season, just up, down, cross down, up,
totally,
up.
Absolutely.
And it's like, and then you go catch a rabbit or a duck, and it's just like, literally nothing. Like,
yeah, totally.
And so I'm the kind of guy, and Seth, it sounds like you're like similar, where I would rather just go chase squirrels and watch the bird huff and puff and get super fit than stand on my deck with a headlamp on for 2 hours doing jump ups. Yeah. On
this thing on exercise, Tom Cox, he had a job 5 days a week that he couldn't go hawking in the evening. And then he had 1 or 2 days a week on the weekend. And a lot of my falconry, when raising my family, it was the same way until I got employees. That made a big difference. And then what to do in the evening. And so the experimenting. And the part that was really interesting about it was that if you think of a hawk in the wild, it can hunt squirrels in this habitat over here, or it can chase grouse over here in this habitat. And so for me, playing the games literally is a hunting game. I can make it insanely more difficult than chasing wild game. And I can put it on psychologically and physically. Well, you remember Elda just laying down you had exercised her so hard she lay down.
That was Brooke. That was a long time before that. But
yeah. So you can get them so in the wild, they would never exercise that hard. A coyote or a great horned owl would kill them. Yeah. And so at home, when I was at home playing with my birds, I realized it wasn't just a game. It literally was a hunt as far as they're concerned. And I could exercise them harder mentally also. They had to think more, and physically. They didn't have to take it to that extreme. I had the opportunity to do it.
Yeah. I mean, to your point, Casey, it's just a tool, right?
Yeah.
So I had dad raised a Tiercel goshawk for me. We called Yo-Yo. And we didn't really do hardly any physical conditioning with that bird before we were hunting. We were just hawking. And then I took it to college. It killed its first rabbit out in some scabland in Wyoming, out at Pete Widener's place. And then we were out, I had easy first semester, and I was out killing scaled quail and cottontails every single day. We were hitting crows, cottontails, and scaled quail. And I didn't take it home and jump it. I just went hawking, and we had enough game, to your point, that the bird's standing on the ground with his beak wide open, panting after multiple flights on whatever, right? Just chasing all kinds of stuff. But where as a tool, though, I think where the big advantage is for apprentices is that, apprentices take red-tailed hawks, and they take, if they take more than 10 to 14 days to get to a point where you can do physical activity, you lose muscle really, really fast. And so you need to, and then if you go, so now you're trying to motivate, so you're cutting weight, and because you need them hungry. And especially if you're developing the skills needed to do it, quicker or more efficiently, or, make the birds tamer faster. So you're losing muscle mass at the same time you're trying to get this bird tame. You want it to come to you, and you're focused on retrieving the bird. There's a series of motivations that you're trying to learn how to balance. So you're cutting weight to gain motivation. The bird's losing muscle mass and losing condition as a result. And by the time you turn it loose, if you're not careful, you have a bird it's the proverbial apprentice standing on the ground, looking up in a tree, swinging a lure, and the bird can't get their bird down, right? Because the bird's sitting up there with no confidence and no condition. And so that's where I think you have this tool, right? Or like Dad said, you have down periods where you can't hawk like organic chemistry. We would do these things in college where we had a roadkill white-tailed jackrabbit. We froze it and named it Mr. Frosty, and put it in our fridge, and we would exercise the red tail, and then we would get one of our buddies to go drag this cottontail through so the bird would be dead tired and would never get cropped up until it caught this jackrabbit. And that bird went from refusing jackrabbits because it knew cottontails were around to just absolute pursuit flight, mowing down jackrabbits in Colorado. And it's actually his second bird, but an apprentice who never grew up with falconry, didn't know any of this stuff, but just had tools to that one month long block. Colorado College had this block plan, so we had a month of organic chemistry, and Ryan didn't have any choice but to do anything but exercise this bird because he couldn't go hawking. And then in that 1 month period, we went from challenges getting the bird to take jackrabbit slips, but being a good cottontail hawk, to the first day out, just mowing down the first jackrabbit that got up, and then just killing jackrabbits at will after that. It was unbelievable.
Casey, do we ever talk about doing restraint pursuits and establishing a search image?
Me and you have on the phone, but I don't remember on the show.
Okay. We did not on the show.
Okay. All right. What, again, thinking about the watch and how it's worked, is that when the birds establish a search image of what the prey looks like and the habitat it's in. And so there was a long tradition of falconry of giving bags. But if you give too many bags, a bird that's kind of out of shape, it can recognize a hard rabbit to catch compared to a bag. And they just start waiting for the bags. So I decided to not use any bags and just freeze a rabbit or freeze a duck in the freezer, call them Mr. Frosties. And then I'd be doing my jump up games, and then I would just throw the frozen carcass out on the floor. And then I'd do restrained pursuits going after it, and then up the criteria so that it gets to the point that catching a dead rabbit or duck on the floor is by far more difficult than to catch one when we go hunting. And, yes. And that's when I don't need to use bags anymore.
Can you describe restrained pursuits for people out there?
Okay. Restrained pursuits. I'll tell you the story, how it occurred to me. It was with Skeeter, not far from here, in some alders. And a rabbit, the wind was blowing really, really hard. And
I got to interrupt.
Yeah, right.
Skeeter was a decade later.
Okay, what bird was that?
I had a goshawk named Brooke that I got from Tad Krieger.
That's right.
And this was when I was 17 years old in high school. And it happened by accident while that bird would get really, really fired up. Remember, we would be exercising and she would get grippy on the glove. And so she would, while jumping vertically, she would want to go back to the ground.
Yes. And
she would hold on to my glove with her being sticky footed. And so she was pumping. And we noticed that when she'd let go, and I'd have to raise my hand because I didn't want to let go. I would raise my hand up in the air to get distance between the floor and then let go with the talons. And then she would hit the ground and be panting. And Dad said, well, why don't you just put a leash on her? And when she baits for the tidbit, just hold on to the leash. And then she'd get super tired. And then we did the same thing with Mr. Frosties. And then we noticed she was already a really good game hawk, but we noticed we were out with this guy, Bill McLeod, one time, and this rabbit's running down a straight road. And instead of just flying down and wrapping this rabbit up, she hits this rabbit and just carries, this female goshawk just carries this cottontail about 15 or 20 feet in the air. And then just, because she just smoked through it, just pumping so hard, right?
Yeah. So back to the concept of restrained pursuits. I was with one of my prairie falcons, caught a hun, and the feathers, there was a snowstorm, and the feathers are blowing off into the downwind, and I'm watching kind of the aesthetics of these feathers blow. And then I see what looked like two feathers flying toward me, and it was getting bigger and bigger. And it was a logger-headed shrike chasing a white-crowned sparrow into the wind. And I'm standing still, and they're flying toward me at the speed of life and death. And I watched this shrike catch the white-crowned sparrow around my legs and then disappear. And they're beating their wings hard, but they're only traveling about this fast across the ground.
Awesome.
Had there not been any wind, they would have covered 50 yards. So it occurred to me that you can have speed going, into the wind and only kind of 100 yards. If they went downwind, it'd be 200 yards. So I realized that by what Seth was talking about, I could literally hold on to the jesses or hold on to the leash. The ground speed makes absolutely no difference. It's a relative relationship to the prey and the predator. And it didn't have to be running, nor did it have to be alive. And it was just the effort put out to get something of good quality. And so since then, the restrained pursuits, you can hold on to their jesses and do it, or let them fly off and hold on to their leash. And when they're stroking after this dead rabbit, you can pull them away, you can let them close. And what we've learned is you pull them away, you let them go, let them get their feet out, and then catch it. And it's for them, it's a hunting flight requiring effort, relationship to the quarry, getting closer, further away, but the ground speed is zero.
Right.
I only do it to solve a problem. I mean, I don't. Yeah. I don't do it. I mean, unless there's a problem, then I don't. That's not necessary. We'll do controlled baits, and pragmatically, it's like, what can you do to burn calories to make your exercise session as efficient as possible? Because I don't want to be out there for an hour and a half. So, but if absolutely, I would use it if we had like some kind of an issue.
I remember using it for if we were if I was practicing hooding and we were figuring out, my bird would get really antsy and start kind of unfocusing on me. And then we would do a controlled bait and she'd come back and be like, oh, where's the food? And so for me, it was more of a thing to get her more tired out for a second. So when I take that hood, it becomes a positive experience, or even just a non-negative experience, because I wasn't good enough to be able to just like put a hood on the right way.
Tahlia mentioned the word there. It's control bait. That's different than a restrained pursuit. When a hawk baits, if fearful of you or distracted by something, as falconers, we see a hawk that baits as being a negative. Well, one day it dawned on me that maybe it's not so much of a negative. So if the bird is sitting on the fist and I wait and it baits, and second it baits, I sound the secondary reinforcer and it comes up and get a tidbit. So I sit and wait until it baits again. Second, it leaves the glove, sound the secondary reinforcer and give it a tidbit. So now a hawk, when you want to go out and hunt it, you hold it up, it flies into the trees, then comes back. So I looked at a bait as just a little tiny flight that I'm rewarding. And they bait and whistle, come back up, and then I hold my glove still, they look away, and then I can give it a little cue, it baits, it comes back up. Well, you'd think, gee, why do you want your hawk to bait? Now it's going to bait all the time. I just don't give the cue. If God got my elbow on the side here, on my waist, and I don't give the cue, if the hawk baits, no rewards. So my goshawks don't bait. And then now I've got a cheap way to train something. So Tahlia was using it. It's a positive. She's now used it as a negative reinforcer. She gives it the cue to do a control bait, and it comes up. And if attempting to hood, if it doesn't want to hood, okay, do a control bait. Comes up, now it's breathing a little bit. The hood goes on, the hood comes off, and now there's food.
So part of it is just a bird that's tired is less like they don't dodge the hood as well.
Right. Yeah.
They do a few baits, but you don't want. We just use it to make the baiting not negative.
Yes, that's
because
right.
if they bait and then they come back to the fist and have fear, well, now you've got a problem.
Now their wings are flared, looking at you.
You just want them to come back to the glove and not have fear.
Yeah.
Got it.
And for me, the watch, take it apart, is that now I realized that when I was doing those control baits so I can put it on cue, now I've got a hawk that doesn't bait, but I'm building mitochondria.
Right.
It's a physical activity, very brief, but they metabolically benefit from it.
That's really good stuff.
Is there any coming back from depleting the muscle tissue of a bird that was, whether it's through natural processes or through the manning process, lost the bulk of its muscle mass?
Okay, that's called autophagy. And I've had a number of other goshawks come through my hands. We call it the Auschwitz syndrome. If Casey, you're a bodybuilder. Yep. One time you were.
Maybe not muscle, but yeah, I'm building over here.
He's building width.
I'm building width. Yes. Yes. To answer your question, Steve. Yes, I used to be a bodybuilder.
So you can build muscle up, and then it can waste away. And some of the birds in rehab, in wild birds, if they lose the muscle mass to the point where they catabolize, literally eat the muscle, then they can never build it back. But if it's just the mitochondria expanding up and down, they can, look like this. And then by exercise, you build like this. But if they're too lean for too long, they can never build it back.
Yeah. I think you have to increase obviously any bodybuilder, my fellow bodybuilders out there, you can't work out and exercise and expect muscle to grow unless you're constantly adding fuel.
That's right.
You can't think I'm going to gain 20 solid pounds of lean muscle and then you're going to still eat your 2,000 calories a day. You're not going to maintain it. You're not even going to grow. So you have to overload or bulk to get the muscle to stick. And then there's a balancing process to see how many calories and what type of calories you can eat while stripping the fat off of the top of it without decreasing the muscle mass. And then it's like a constant balance. And the same with falconry. I mean, just because you got your bird to fly free to the glove at 1,100 grams, that doesn't mean that 2 months later, hawk and squirrels, your bird's going to be 1,100 grams. Your bird's going to increase in weight as the fear continues to go down during that process and the fitness level goes up. You're going to have to increase the weight, increase the intake of food. It's a constant, like up and down balance. So basically I just eat to hope that I can gain muscle eventually.
He's
one
in the
day.
bulking stage.
I'm in a constant
You're just
bulk.
hoping that the photo period is going to kick those mitochondria in for a Casey.
That's why I was asking Steve about that. I was like, so what do I got? Just leave I got to sleep with the light on and I just get jacked. Stick a grow light over my head while I'm sleeping.
So to answer my question, Steve, so those birds that experienced the loss of all that muscle mass, they're never going to be able to replenish that?
Not to the level that they might have been. It's when weight control. It happened during the Second World War. Prisoners, if they got to the point they've totally gone, they come back and they put on weight, but they can't put the muscle on anymore. To a certain level, it can't be added to. And so I think, it looks like is that it interferes with the ability to produce mitochondria. And and to Seth's point earlier, with novices, the reading of body language, what does a hawk look like when it's fearful and when it's tired, when it's sunning, when do they need that photo period? It was a matter of fact that when Radford and I were back at the Kearney, Nebraska meet, we have a kind of an adage is that we don't want to, during certain times of the year, we don't fly between 10 and 2 because that's time of year you see the hawks and the turkey vultures and the Cooper's hawk soaring. That's when they're getting their D3. And if we can't weather the birds, consistently, is that we fly after 2 o'clock into the evening. If we fly earlier in the day like that, the birds are going to take off and go and soar. We were in the parking lot, and two guys came in, and Radford's talking to them. Sure enough, two of the red tails went on soar. Picked them up the next day.
Yeah, but if you're flying in the middle of the day and your red tail goes on soar, there's a good chance that it's not too low in weight. Because birds that are starving to death don't go on soar.
Yeah.
I mean,
these were good birds, but they've been in hawk boxes the whole time.
Yeah. But that's a kind of like a tangent from the whole low weight question. Yeah.
Right. Or sacrifice the beginning of the hunt to allow the bird to do a semi-weather while you're hunting.
Yeah, that's right.
Or fly him into weight.
Yeah. So back to the question about novices and bringing them along. Novices have got a lot to learn about reading body language, and that weight control, reducing weight control, get in the field, that push to get in the field, that's when that catabolizing of muscle tissue can occur, and they and may not come back from. So Seth and I. So when I sponsored Radford, for example, was get him to learn about his hawk, the manage of it, doing the vertical jumping, getting it going, even before he went into the field, so he could learn to read the behavior. And because if the bird refuses game or whatever, I figured that we could solve that problem doing restraint pursuits and that sort of thing. And so Radford did an awesome job. Yeah.
Radford's the best. We all know.
Credit for that.
Radford is Mr. Special, and he's the best.
Mr. Special. So, you remember?
But the flip side though is like, we've had apprentices that really, I mean, man, they just can't figure it out, right? Because they just, but they've had amazing birds, right? Yeah. But they didn't grow up. Did you guys grow up like hunting and fishing before falconry
and loving every day? Yeah, I did.
Yeah, absolutely. And like, here's the thing: like my very good friend Emil McCain, who's a falconer, I went to college with, and he picked it up like this because he grew up hunting and fishing and doing pursuit sports that require you to be observational of your environment, right? And there's tons of things that you see with people that didn't grow up doing that, where not having in your head an idea of what's your mission when you go to the field. I mean, we were in the field recently with an apprentice here, where the apprentices doesn't have a clear idea of what success looks like in the field. Our goal here is that we're going to turn this bird loose, and the bird's going to behave in this way. And then the idea is that when given the opportunity, it's going to make this decision to pursue and kill. And then we're going to try to create enough opportunity that this is going to happen. And then you turn the bird loose and you don't understand what the movement in the tree, you're afraid you're going to lose the bird. And then the anxiety increases, and then the lure comes out, and it's like, what are we trying to, we need to start with what are you trying to accomplish? What do you want your end goal to be, and what steps you're going to need to take to get there? And you can take, like Kirk Francis, who's passed away now, but he, one of the great things about some of the techniques that Dad's talking about is you can take somebody who doesn't have that fundamental background and give them a few key things to observe and a few key things to accomplish, and then have it turn out with success. I mean, that Kirk's first red tail, Bert, was one of the best red tails we've ever seen. Yeah. And, it was like in spite of Kirk.
In spite of
right?
Yeah.
So, I'm not taking anything away what Mike did or anybody who's saying anything, but I'm just saying you want to engineer success, right? Yeah. We want to come up with ways where it's not so dependent on skill that somebody who has a lot to learn or has a deficit in terms of the way they were brought up in terms of hunting and fishing or whatever can still get it done and have a good experience.
Right.
Well, that's interesting you say that, because you might take a novice out with you, or just I call them a looky-loo, somebody who just wants to see falconry, and you catch something and things don't go particularly well, but only you realize it.
Yeah.
Right. And it doesn't feel successful, and they might catch on to the fact that you're not thrilled. And they're like, "What? What's wrong?" And you're like,
right.
Yeah.
Well, it's like, yeah,
the bird didn't even really deserve
the bird wasn't following well, and it caught the thing playing trapdoor spider when the rabbit tried to get out the back door instead of the. And then actually we reinforced behavior that we didn't want, even though the hunt was successful.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Some people have an innate ability to read animals. Some people grew up
read animals.
To read animals.
Yes. Like Tahlia.
Like Tahlia.
Like Tahlia, and maybe part of that has to do with Talia's upbringing. But Tahlia, I understand you're also a certified horse girl. Is that correct?
That is correct. Now news in the making.
And do you
Sounds
feel
expensive.
Oh yeah, that does sound expensive.
We're not talking about that.
Casey wants to get a horse. So
really bad.
I
Bad.
really recommend it. It's amazing.
My neighbor just, we lived there for 5 years. I just met her. My mom knows her better than I do, but she has a horse next door that we feed, on the fence. It's like,
Yeah.
And she came over freaking out because she couldn't find it.
Oh.
So I helped her for about an hour going through her, the backwoods and stuff of the pasture. It like goes into the woods. It's really nice setup.
Mm-hmm.
And the horse was just standing behind some bushes. She didn't see it. She's elderly. And
I think Casey either needs a donkey or a pony, though.
No, but that's what I was talking about with her, because I could get a horse and literally just house it next door, and she wouldn't have a problem with it. But I was at like, how much does it cost? Is it worth it? And then she's telling me stories like they had 5 horses, her husband, her 2 sons, and her, and they would like literally just like every day just saddle them up and just walk out of the driveway and just go down the street into the trails, the wildlife areas, and just ride around for hours, bring a lunch, and then go home. And I want to do that so badly. It's not even funny.
I'll tell you,
it's very fun. Trail riding's amazing.
I'll tell you a fun. The horse barn people are always just horrified by my horse stories. But one of the things that if we just circle back to like being raised by Papa Steve over here,
yes,
Dad would turn us loose on all kinds of stuff. So when I was 17 years old and my brother was 15 years old, he sent us out. Jack and Connie Orr out in Idaho needed somebody to caretake their ranch and all their birds and animals while they were in Greenland doing gerfalcon research. So Dad's like, well, why don't you let Seth? And I had been out there 2 years earlier when I was 15 with the Tiercel goshawk on some flight study they were doing in the middle of winter, and we were hawking pygmy rabbits and stuff. But so I knew them. And they had me back out with Isaac to caretake their ranch for an entire summer. So we were there, 17-year-old, 15-year-old. And Jack Orgo says to us, you can ride any of the horses you can catch. And in his mind, he's like, these kids are never catching these horses. These horses are in like a 40-acre pasture. He's got his stallion out there and then a bunch of mares. And he... Not recognizing that Captain Operant Conditioning over here had raised me. So we went to the local market and got a bunch of carrots. And then over the course of about a week and a half, we trained the one horse who was most food motivated, which was his prize stallion, to run to one side of the area. And then we'd throw carrots at it. And we eventually got closer and closer to this horse, until after about a week and a half of daily training sessions, we were able to put a halter on his stallion.
Oh my gosh.
We saddled that thing up. And I mean, growing up on Whidbey, I didn't grow up in like, that kind of country with, livestock and stuff. We grew up on Whidbey Island, and they had a cattle grate going from the road.
Oh yeah.
And I always thought, what a great invention a cattle gate is, right? Like a cow knows that it can't walk across that, but yet a horse can walk across it.
It's named cattle grate.
So I was like, oh, this, because how else? So we got on this stallion, and I had this grand vision of like shooting jackrabbits off horseback. So we had a scabbard with a shotgun. I had no idea whether this was, we were just like, hey, why not? Right. I mean, he's got a saddle with a scabbard. It must be for a gun.
When I'll let you continue. When I'm on the phone with him, helping him get this all done, he didn't tell me that the horse he caught had nuts.
Oh yeah.
Well, it was a really well trained horse. Jack rode it. I watched him ride it and hawk sage grouse that winter or previous winter. And so we would go up on the step or on the bench on this horse in Idaho, riding double, right? And with a 16 gauge shotgun,
they crossed the
we ride it back and forth across the cattle guard.
His stallion, and never broke a leg.
When Jack,
yeah, I was going to say, that sounds like a bad idea.
When I told Jack about it, he was like, "Man, you are an idiot and so lucky." But yeah, we would ride that horse up there on the bench, and we never did get to shoot jackrabbits off its back because being not completely idiots, I put my brother on the horse's back and walked 20 yards away to discharge the 16 gauge. The horse just bolted, ejected my brother, and it took us an hour to catch the damn thing again.
Oh my God. I was going to say, yeah.
Yeah. So I'm forbidden from anything other than shoveling manure and hauling hay.
I've given you a pony ride.
Yeah.
You don't look very great.
So, all right, I we don't have to dive too deep into the horsing because I'll ask a million questions and Aaron gets annoyed at me for going down rabbit holes.
Yeah.
But I want to know because I have 2 sons and Aaron has a daughter, and any falconer that has children that are younger, I think we're all for the most part kind of thinking, how can we, kind of like a guy who's like an athlete or like he wants his kids to be like athletes too. So how do you manufacture a childhood that would push your child in that direction, like organically? Kind of how like we get an imprint goshawk, and then how do we turn an imprint into the same level or exceeding like a passage goshawk? Like, how do you manufacture that? So, Steve, it's 3 generations here. And Seth, you have siblings. Tahlia has siblings, but only you 2 kind of got bit by the bug. Like, how? Like, I just want to know how that how that happened.
My son Isaac, he's been out hawking with us. It doesn't bother me if Seth hadn't flown hawks. That's fine. He would develop some sort of passion, just as long as they got a passion. And with Isaac, humor and photography. He's a famous photographer right now, and we have those kinds of things in common. And my daughter Sarah, she was in the construction band, very, very organized, like my wife Kathy, and grew up in the family with brothers. And she was taking biology. If I remember this story, I will talk to Sarah about it. But she's in dissecting stuff, and all the girls in the, go, ooh, ah, and even the boys were kind of grossed out about, dissecting this salamander or rat. And the graduate student came around and wondered where she had the background. And I think my dad's a falconer, and I'm used to dead stuff in the refrigerator and hawk shit or hawks and tearing things apart. She already knew the anatomy. So when we cut open a rabbit or whatever, look at the hearts, kidneys, fat, muscle groups. And when I was in college, I taught comparative anatomy. So everybody gets exposed to it.
For me, I think it really started out as my love for animals. And then I still do, but our dog Switch, who we still hunt with. Yog Terrier. I grew up just loving her and hanging out with her and always wanting to be like, oh, where are you going? Like, what is she like in the field and stuff? And because at that point I was young and I didn't know what falconry was or how the birds worked. So I think it actually started from wanting to be out there with the dogs and see how they interacted. And then once I got out there, I saw how just kind of like the sport and how everyone loves it and the relationship you have with the bird. It's not about, oh, this is my pet. This is something I use as, or I have as not even a partner, but something it's like a challenge almost to be having a bird that can go up in the field and catch a rabbit. And for me, it was really cool to start seeing that in a way of not just a like domesticated animal, but having that wild animal and bringing it into your life without making it something, without stripping it of its personality almost. And then when I came into horses, a lot of it was that too. I think everything kind of just started to come together in the sense of like, my dad was great and my grandpa were great. I had a lot of fun in the field. And I would say for all the parents out there, bring a lot of snacks. I was a few times hungry in the field for a while. I think that it's a lot of just like making it fun and making it a positive experience to hang out with your family and figuring out animals and stuff, especially if you only have domesticated animals, and seeing that other side of nature almost come at your like doorstep. I feel like that's really, really cool for me.
Okay. Yeah, so so I guess there's no real, like, I guess it's also like it's nature and nurture, because it sounds like, the other kids were, the nurture was all there, but the nature of you is what kind of push you over the edge to get involved in what your dad was into.
I think the thing that happens that a lot of I talked about this with Steve Coffer, because he's got daughters too that have fun and are good falconers and been very successful flying red tails. I think it's our nature, where most of us who do falconry for any period of time are pretty passionate about it, right? Mm-hmm. So you get in the field and you become extremely, any good falconer becomes extremely emotionally invested in whatever the success they're pursuing that day is, right? But we go about it so intensely that if you're not careful, you can make it negative for everybody else around you. Mm-hmm. And I think it's pretty, I think, a certain subset of, my other two kids, they're just not particularly interested in animals in general. And they just don't have that spark, and they've got a bunch of other stuff they're interested. I love them too, Right? but for Tahlia, and I think I've ridden the border of making this mistake myself quite frequently, probably, which is get so fired up about the success of your bird that you forget that if you're in the field with a young potential falconer who's interested, the hunt really needs to be a lot more about their experience than in your success with the bird. Yeah. Dad was really good about that. And I think that I see, I see a lot of potential for just kind of like get out of the way, inadvertently make the experience negative because we're so focused on the bird's success and not the success. And remember that, like, you're really trying to make it.
I remember also
a different goal,
like him inviting me to the field and being like, "Hey, do you want to come like this day?" And I'm like, "Oh, I have this," but it kind of being that type of thing where like I want to go and I almost feel bad for not going, but then like I get out there and I remember it being such a positive experience that next time I go, I'm like, "Oh, I really want to make that a priority." So it's kind of, the thing where it's like the real training happens when you don't want to do it. It's kind of the same thing. Like when I wouldn't want to go out and I went out anyways and had a lot of fun, that made it really fun for me, because so much of falconry when I was younger and not knowing anything at all was basically just sitting there like, what is happening? So trying to figure it out and piece it together, and bringing my friends out along now when I know much more about it is quite, it's fun. And they kind of stare like, what is happening? Yeah. And it's cool to see that experience from a different point of view of bringing somebody out that doesn't know what they're doing, or bringing somebody out that doesn't know if they're interested. I would say that I think from what my dad did, it made it very positive to go out even when I didn't want to. And that's a main thing. Or even training, my dad would be like, "Hey, do you want me to just go do the red tail?" And I'll be like, yes, but no. Like,
right.
Yeah.
And I think sons and daughters are a little different, in the way you would go about it. I heard we had Tom Cullen on the show, and him and his cousin were involved, and we asked him the same question. This was like maybe over a year ago. And he said that like his dad, like, cause they were boys and cousins, and they were like always like, who's better at soccer? Who's better at this? He kind of like made it like, he would make it like a competition between the two of them.
Yeah.
And then like if Tom failed at it and the cousin succeeded, then his dad would like give more attention to the cousin, and then Tom would feel bad. But then Tom would like try to outdo him later. And he's like, my dad wouldn't talk to me. Like when we go home, you like put that stuff in and he would like go inside. But then if he did really good, he'd be like, "Hey, let's go put the stuff together. We'll go put everything away." And then Tom like found himself like wanting to like, make his dad happy kind of. And it was kind of like I don't know. I don't know if that's the right way to go. I know Paul Aaliyah, he like makes it special where they go and they hunt. He doesn't push them too hard, but then they always get McDonald's on the way home.
Yeah.
Like on the way home, like it's like like we get McDonald's on the ride home. Sure. So they're all like, yes, McDonald's, and it's like makes it fun and like a special little like outing. I'm just trying to, I have two sons. I'm trying to manufacture it like to make it so they want to.
You heard what Seth said. He makes it about the experience, not the success.
I know.
That being said, you're screwed.
I know.
Yeah.
That's why I would say for me that I will not fly any first year imprints.
Yeah.
Because it's going to be too intense.
Are going to be like,
I got really invested, and my dad would be trying to explain something. I'd be like, be quiet, stop.
Yeah. Right.
And I would also say that when I was training my red tail and when I had my first Harris hawk, my dad would try to tell me all these things and I'd be like, no, I can do it. And then I would completely fail. And it was really fun to finally be able to do it without him and be like, right. So I would say that happened a little bit, but it was mainly more of like, can I do this on my own? That's where I got the top shelf thing. I always just say, no, I'm going to do it on my own shelf when I was a kid. So
that's right.
That's good.
I think Casey's sons are going to have trauma from falconry.
No, I'm good about it.
Oh my God. I remember when Dad didn't catch a rabbit, how horrible life was at home.
No, I make it fun. I brought my son, my oldest, a couple times, and I make it like his idea. And when like a couple times I had the bird on the glove and the rabbit, he flushed the rabbit at his feet, and then he's like, I have it on film actually. And he's like, rabbit, and then the bird chases it, and then I like, it's primary reinforcement, and I'm like, oh my gosh, Leo, that's all. Like you saw it, I didn't even see it, and then he's like, I did, you're right. And I'm like, we should go see where that bird is after it chased like 100 yards and it's super far away. Mm-hmm. So then I'm like, I can carry you. And he's like, no, I can make it, and then we just slowly, meanwhile, I'd be like sprinting across the field. But like, since he's there, we're like walking and like, and I'm like forcing myself as Aaron would like to like
slow down.
Yeah. Cause like my initial reaction is just to sprint.
Yeah.
But I can't, do that with a 5-year-old. I was the one
who was just trying to catch up, falling over sticks. My dad's like, where are you?
The other thing too is I think pretty powerful is friends, right? Like you guys are obviously good friends. I mean, there's, having the friends go along, but also a big part of my upbringing and my interest was the fact that, kids behave differently when they're not around their parents, right? Yeah. You become on your best behavior. I spent a lot of time, in fact, probably more time watching other falconers fly their birds than watching you fly your birds because you were so busy, mainly working, and you were, and let's just face it, you were flying longlings on the weekend. So that was boring as hell. And then we would remember you'd take that prairie hybrid out and we'd chase ducks. But while interesting, because I was spending time with my dad, it wasn't particularly fun, right? Birds going up, we're trying to catch a duck before dark. Like you're standing around, it's cold. And then we'd go out flying Harris hawks with the, all the guys I mentioned earlier. Or, I remember riding around watching Clifford Kellogg kill ducks with his goshawk or whoever, right? And I think that, if your kids end up going out hawking with Aaron, he's going to be making sure that they have a great time. They're going to be wanting to have a great time with him. I think that's a powerful tool.
Yeah.
My daughter's not going hawking with kids.
I would draw a line there.
Here's some advice. It comes back several years ago. This very topic came up, and the guy was a long winger. So I told him to take a bunch of beer cans, empty beer cans along, and a Daisy BB gun. And he said, what? And I said, yeah. So when you get there and you're standing around getting ready, hand him the Daisy BB gun, throw the beer cans out on the ground, let him shoot the Daisy BB gun.
That's a good idea. That's a really good idea.
His son loved to go out with him. I've got to call him and see if I think his son did end up flying some hawks. Yeah. And so Daisy BB guns and beer cans. And then if beer cans and shotgun shells, pick up shotgun shells, throw a shotgun shell, cock it, and see if you can hit a shotgun shell with the Daisy BB gun. Because you can see the BBs go. Yeah,
right. Yeah. That's good. Yeah. I kind of already like subconsciously knew that that's how I had to handle it with my son. But then I don't know. He might not. He's talking about like music now, and he's talking about singing, and I'm like, what I'm like, what the heck is this? And then I cut a baggie loose to Aaron when I had my dog, when Ginger passed away. Aaron was nice enough to give me a puppy, so I'm training the puppy, and I breed rabbits. So then I remember we did a little exercise, and I've never been more disappointed with my son, because he goes, leave it alone, or something. He said, like, when the dog is, after the dog found it and ran it down and is doing her thing with it, he was like, leave her alone. And he like runs over there to like protect the rabbit. And I was like disgusted. I told him to go inside.
I mean, the thing too is the falconry world is full of all these good people who all do super interesting stuff. And I mean, the connections that we made by the time that I went to college, that connection the falconry connection had connected to people that took me to adventures on Salmon Island, to England, to the Middle East, Spain, Siberia, Kazakhstan, Africa. By the time all that stuff was, and that was all, Dad met Nick Fox at a NAFA meet someplace, and Nick was looking for sort of like working pupils there in Wales at his breeding facility, and then they had just bought the farm in Northumberland and were getting ready to do the whole crow falconry thing up there, and that connection with Nick led to like all these other opportunities that resulted in, I was a pretty bad student in high school because all I wanted to do was go hawking. So I was, just smart enough that I could kind of like get B's without trying too hard. But I never would have gotten into, the school that I got into or had the interest if it hadn't been for the connections through falconry and some of those other adventures that led to sort of like, for lack of a better term, fluff in your resume, right? I mean, right. Your application.
And before we spoke, earlier, Seth, you mentioned a couple stories about San Juan Island and some fun things you did there. You want to talk about a little bit, some of that?
Well, so, you guys brought up in the first podcast about Dad's involvement in, he was mentioning the eagle thing on San Juan Island. And I do think that's a pretty important, one of the things that's great that Dad, the whole sort of people are more important than hawks thing. Two kids that were quite a bit younger than Dad, Ken Franklin and John McNutt, were exposed to Dad on San Juan Island and the work he was doing with eagles, and it fostered a really powerful, interest in raptors specifically at the time. Ken Franklin went on to do all the skydiving stuff that you and I talked about on the phone, and I can share a little bit about. And then John McNutt ended up being a wildlife biologist who started the African Wild Dog Project in Botswana in the Okanagan Delta, and that connection now has spanned 3 generations as well, because Tico very clearly credits his connection to my dad as fostering his interest in wildlife biology and generally in shaping his career path. I ended up in the Okanagan Delta working with Tico. We trapped redneck falcons there. And to this day, I still fantasize about going back there and importing some of those falcons to fly, because they're just, we would go out in the floodplains. We would trap these emerald spotted wood doves in camp, and Tico would be he was writing papers at the time, not doing a lot of field work. And so he's real busy. And I built these traps over, just funnel traps over a bath pan, because it was a dry season. These wood doves would go in there, and we'd collect these wood doves. And then in the afternoon, Ken and I would take the Land Rover. Tico and I would take the Land Rover, drive out to the floodplains, and these redneck falcons on the Palm Islands in the middle of the floodplain, we would flash the wood doves, and they would come overhead. And they eventually got to where we would flash the wood doves and put them away, and we would wait for the falcons to ring up, and we'd pitch these wood doves and get these spectacular wood doves, which is wild falcons.
It's so awesome. That's so awesome.
And then I would mention that my other daughter, Elsa, Tahlia's older sister, who's 18, she just got back from 3 months in the Delta with Tico. And now that African Wild Dog Project that was Tico's PhD thesis is it's actually wild in trust now, and it is the largest large predator conservation organization in Africa.
Wow.
It's unbelievable. So, and then the other side of it was Ken Franklin, who you guys may be aware of, but Ken had the brainstorm of training falcons. He's an aviation fanatic, and he trained in the early days, trained falcons to chase him in an ultralight. And so in an effort to get these birds strong and to create this relationship in the air, Ken wanted to always be in the air with the birds. And so he rigged his ultralight so that there was a reel next to the seat and eyelets that went out to the end of the wing, and he would drop a lure back behind the wing, and then he would fly. Birds would be turned loose. His wife Suzanne would turn birds loose on the ground, and then he would ring up, and eventually the falcons would get strong enough they could outfly the ultralight. Wow. And then he had to invest in different ultralights, as I remember it. But I went to San Juan Island when the culmination of it came in his desire to skydive with the birds and have the birds follow him. And Ken was just really a genius about the whole thing. And so I spent 2 summers up there facilitating the Raptor training, because Ken was still in the middle of his career flying for FedEx as a commercial airline pilot. And so I lived there, trained the falcons. The falcons were bred by Brian Sullivan here in Washington. And we trained a couple of different falcons, a tiercel and a female. But Ken is a adrenaline junkie, skydiving, flying helicopters, doing all kinds of stuff. And we just couldn't help it. I mean, we trapped starlings, went up at 3,000 feet in his R-22 and pitched them out the door, like literally like me in a rock climbing harness and a parachute just in case.
Oh my God.
And I'm in the back seat, scrunched up, watching Seth at the door, and Ken's 82-year-old dad flying.
Well, that's in a Cessna. That's in an airplane, because there's no back seat in an R-22.
Right.
Oh, yeah. And then we were pitching starlings and just watching falcons chase starlings to the ground, but from above, not from below, right? And Ken would just drop the helicopter out of the sky. We'd be that flying around like this, watching. But then the skydiving part of it, again, I just can't emphasize enough what a genius Ken was to figure it all out. But we built lures. We did all kinds of test jumps. And to Dad's point, Ken's 80-year-old dad was the pilot flying a 172 Cessna. And we would do all these experiments building lures that would fall relative to the skydiver. So skydiver had to be able to let go of the lure and then have the falcon chase the lure. But the lure, if the lure fell too slow, the skydiver would fall away from it. And if the lure fell too fast, the skydiver would kind of have to go head down. And the falcons didn't really like being in too close a proximity to the skydiver, because it's like, you have no control over yourself, right?
Right.
So the falcons would flare constantly. But that whole project culminated in the footage of sun in the background, falcon in a pure vertical, skydiver falling with a lure in the foreground, and 3 feet away, a skydiver 3 feet away from the falcon in a completely head down vertical stoop.
Oh my gosh, that's so amazing.
At that time, there wasn't really video. So Norm Kent,
he had a big 40-pound Milliken,
on his head. And he would drive along filming this whole thing. Yeah.
Wow.
Go ahead, Tahlia.
Oh, I was just saying I have about 10 minutes left.
Oh, go ahead. You want to say bye?
No, I'm here.
Okay, cool. That's fine.
That sounds like something you said earlier. Keep the children away from long wing flying.
Yeah,
that might be the exception.
That's the exception. We had stuff happen where, I was raising gyrfalcons that summer for Clancy, and raising them, getting them in shape, and entering them. And we had we had this big female gyr at Hack.
Yeah.
And it disappeared. And here I'm responsible for this thing. And Ken had he had a helicopter that he painted it camo so that he could covertly fly in. This is before 9/11. He could put this R-22 on the deck and fly into Canada to his favorite surf spot.
Oh my God.
And so this camo, this helicopter is hand painted camo. This thing looks like a drug running aircraft if you've ever seen it. Right?
Yeah.
So one time I'm frantic. I can't find this big Falcon, and I'm getting telemetry signals, and it's all out in the water. And what we had done is we had built a 10-foot by 10-foot platform. Dad had the idea that you could fly these Falcons over the water and kill shorebirds, and then the only place that they would be able to land would be back on the boat deck.
Right.
And so we built a 10-foot by 10-foot plywood platform on the front of a seine skiff.
Yeah.
And I mean, this almost killed me, but we would put the Falcons, put them on tire perches, and then drive like 3 miles out offshore on the water, and then turn them loose and call them back to the lure on the deck, so that once they had a lure or they had a quail in their foot or whatever, and they wanted to land, the only place to come land back on the 10 by 10 platform, right?
Right.
And we had I get this signal on this deer falcon that's missing, and it's over the water. And I think to myself, she's gone off and killed something, and she's landed out in the water, and she's out there dying, right? And I can visualize it perfectly. She's on the surface of the water. She's breathing, but her wings are out. I can just see it in my head, like there's minutes to spare saving this falcon. So I run in the valley. I call Ken. We fire up the chopper. I get the telemetry on. We peel out over the water, and we chasing the telemetry, right? I'd stand in the door, and then Ken would fly the helicopter in a circle, and I'd be like that way. We go up and down the coast. We find this falcon. The falcon is sitting on the railing of a deck of a pleasure boat. Now,
of course.
So it's a silver gyr falcon. It's got a transmitter on the leg and no jesses. Can't have any jesses on them because the local eagles think they're carrying something, right?
Yes.
So here's this pleasure boat, and these people they're not paying attention to the helicopter. They're looking at this falcon, as you can imagine. And then pretty soon the helicopter's closer and closer and closer, and I'm waving at them, and I'm like, follow us, come follow us. So we fly back and set the helicopter down on the beach.
Wow.
And this boat comes in, and this guy's holding on to the transmitter of the Falcon, and it's flying. So I run down the beach and get the lure out, start swinging the lure. The guy lets the Falcon go. The Queen, we call her the Queen Mary. The Queen Mary flies in, finds the lure. I pick her up, feed her a little bit, put the hood on her, run back to a camouflaged helicopter, and fly away.
That's what.
Oh my
So
gosh.
you can imagine, like, the only person with a better story about this than me is whoever was on that boat, right?
Yeah. Oh my gosh. That's insane.
That was crazy.
There's, as we sit here, all kinds of other stories are starting to come to mind.
The Tiercel Falcon in that year actually got killed by eagles. That Tiercel Falcon that we had, because Ken really wanted to do a male and a female and kind of see the differences. And that Tiercel got killed by an eagle. But every time we flew the birds, it was a race, because they would be at significant altitude with either a lure or a quail. And it was just like a flashing neon sign for all the eagles. And we'd have people on the ground with telemetry just ready to go. Yeah. And eventually the birds got experienced enough that they would bring it back to the hack site, as opposed to a half a mile away. I mean, from that height, they can just go literally anywhere they want, right?
Yeah.
So eventually they got pretty good at coming. The female got pretty good at coming pretty close to the hack site. We were able to pick them up pretty easily. But yeah,
it's incredible. That's absolutely crazy. So now I've seen footage of that. Like I saw, like, there was one video, Aaron, I don't know if you remember, like, this floating around social media, like, of like a skydiver doing the same exact thing that you're describing. I think the lure was like a blue ball kind of thing that they had. Did somebody like take his technique and like run with it for like a documentary at some point?
I'm not aware of that, but it's possible. Yeah.
Okay. Because I feel like I've seen it. I think it was a hot air balloon that they jumped out of.
That's right. Yeah.
That's right. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It was the same kind of thing.
I think it's been done 2 or 3 other times as well.
That's just absolutely insane.
Tahlia, before you have to go, I wanted to ask this earlier. And this is a little jump from where we're currently at, so forgive me. But since you need to go, are you interested in any other type of hunting besides falconry?
Yeah, I do. I got a deer. I don't know if it was last September or September before.
I can't remember either. A year or two ago.
I got a deer a year or two ago, and I go crabbing with my dad all the time. I mean, I want to go bow hunting. I'm busy all the time, so it's hard to find time between school and horses and my little time with falconry. But yeah,
so I feel like falconry is a lot of people's gateway into the sport, into other hunting sports, other forms of take, and that it will. I have met many people over the years who probably never would have considered trapping or archery or shooting, but now want to because of falconry, because it exposed them to the outdoors. Do you feel like that is you, or do you feel like you just might have gravitated towards that anyways?
I mean, I don't remember a time in my life when I didn't know what falconry was, or it had been something that we talk about. And I think that even if I didn't catch on to the falconry, my sister didn't, but she goes hunting with my dad all the time. They've been up to Montana. That's where Emil lives, my dad's close friend. So I think that I still would have been into hunting, especially just because my family is, and we do that, and fishing and stuff. But I think falconry made it so I'm a little bit more perceptive, or not willing, but know a little bit more about how to handle situations of game being on the ground, or in that moment where you're like, you got to be quiet and you're setting up to like shoot a deer or something like that. I think it helped with that. And I think it also even helped with going into horses and like how that started.
Very cool.
Sense. Yeah, that makes sense.
I think there's nothing more intimate than dispatching a rabbit, for your hawk. That gun hunters don't really generally get to experience that. On occasion, they may have to dispatch something that was mortally wounded and laying there.
That was you actually bring up a good point. That was kind of a hard thing because for our cottontails out here, we always just stretch the neck, but from a strength standpoint, you can do it now. But when she was little, she couldn't do that, but she didn't want me coming in and messing with her bird on the kill. Right. So
I had to learn to like push on the rib right there in the heart.
So she would just like teaching your like 11-year-old daughter how to reach in and stop the heart of a rabbit. So
yeah.
My daughter is much more comfortable with death than I was when I was her age, because she sees hawks killing and she sees me having to dispatch animals, and she's been with me trapping, and
sure.
But I think we have falconry to thank for all of that.
Yeah, we're really respectful of it too. Just like it's the life and death part of it's a big deal. I mean, the birds, I think there's a very good quote in one of Mike McDermott's books when he's talking about sharp-shinned hawks. And he says the flame burns bright and quick, right? And just meaning that, they're highly susceptible to stuff going wrong. They've got high metabolism. There's lots of, and here we are with these birds that are susceptible. We're responsible for their care. And then, but at the same time, we're trying to kill quarry. They need it to survive. And so we usually have a flask in the field, not that Tahlia gets to partake, but we usually have a flask in the field that's just a cheers to the rabbits at the end of the day, and make sure that, we don't kind of, taking perverse pleasure in the death itself, but rather just the appreciation for the natural history piece of what we do,
I think that natural history, falconry, to my mind, is the premier natural history lifestyle that you can live.
Yeah.
Because
100%.
You understand and appreciate photosynthesis, all the trophic levels to have a hawk, and we get to weave our life, be a part of it all the time. It's the only, I would agree, Steve, that it's, because I mean, it's the only hunting sport or means of take where you're like fully
literally fully immersed in the entire process. You're not separated from it by a mechanical device or something like that. It's like,
and the other is that since we're, this is kind of woo a little bit, but I've changed my philosophy a bit about being, because of age, being conscious of life. And
I'm going to interrupt for a second, Greg, but thank you so much for having me, guys.
Yeah. I got to tell you, thank you so much. Thank you for being here.
Yeah, thank you so much. Have a great day.
Okay, see ya.
Yeah, see you later.
Yeah, say hi to Spud.
I will.
She's an impressive young lady.
Oh, yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. Seth and Molly had done a great job raising all their kids. Yeah.
That's awesome.
It's my biggest pleasure in life.
Yes.
So, Steve, you were saying?
About consciousness. Michael Pollan's book just recently, he's a famous author, and he's written a book about consciousness. And that I'm looking at your logo, and I see that goshawk with its red eyes, and it's the thing we have in common with them, that they're conscious, and that rabbit's conscious, and being aware of that state of mind. And we get to participate in that goshawk and your lives, and the ability to exchange ideas across, a computer screen and internet, and you're all the way across the world, and we're communicating with ideas and words, emotions. It's pretty remarkable.
It really is
unbelievable, actually.
It really is.
Today, I put my goshawk out to hack today.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
It's a little over. It's like 15 days now, but what world do we get to take a creature that's capable of flying from North Carolina to Washington if it really wants to, and setting it free and then going back and getting it at the end of the day?
Yeah,
it's just remarkable,
And on that remarkable, Seth has got, is it 9 years now with that pair of red tails, and the female comes in.
Mm-hmm.
It's been,
it's more. I mean, it's 10 or 11 something. We had I went out to feed one of my birds. I can't remember which one it was at the time, but there was a dying juvenile red tail in the yard. Threw it a quail, drug it off I thought it would just probably die. And it's been coming back every year for over a decade now. And it's one of the ones that's got a juvenile out here. Pretty cool. Yeah.
So
that's amazing.
Established territory there and mated, all that.
Yep. And it comes back, and it disappears during the breeding season for a little while, shows back up with kids sometimes, not always. And then it'll be here every single day in the wintertime. Yeah.
Wow.
I mean, I'm probably not supposed to, but she comes in here, she'll follow me. I mean, if I show up out here, because she doesn't have bells on, right? And she's figured it out that she needs to fly to where I can see her so that I know she's there. And then, like, if I'm at the far end of the property, we're on 20 acres here, she'll get my attention. And then when I walk back to the barn to get a quail, she'll follow along and then go post up in the dead top of the cedar tree over here. And for a while, she would come down. For a while, I made a game of it where I would make it so that this was when she was younger, but I would make it so that she had to come within pretty close proximity, and she would come. Well, actually, I forgot what happened was Lydia Ash had given me a Tiercel harris-hawk for Tahlia to fly, actually her first bird before her harris-hawk that she mentioned. But this bird had been around for 3 years and was very tame. And we were flying the harris-hawk on the creance in the yard prior to going hunting the next day, just helping Tahlia understand, some of the things that are going to be required in the field. And we threw a lure out for the harris-hawk to chase. It was sitting there on the lure 15 feet away, and I was talking to Tahlia about making in on this bird, and the red tail came out of nowhere and just drills this harris-hawk.
I was going to say,
this harris-hawk. And I run in there, and the harris-hawk, the goshawk freak, the red tail freaks out. Harris-hawk seems okay. Harris-hawk dies 9 days later.
Oh, no.
Puncture, injury, whatever, seemed fine for a while, and then got sick really fast and died. and the red tail was nowhere to be seen for almost 10 days. And then she showed up here also dying. And I threw a rabbit out for her and made into her and was able to cut tidbits and hand her tidbits. I was on the ground on my belly. She recovered and actually survived and came back and was here every single day. And then that was, I mean, she was an adult plumage. So she was 2 or 3 at some point at that point. And then, so she's just been back every single year. She comes back in the winter. She's here every day. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, I could see that, like you just said, I could see that becoming an issue. Just trying to do basic training stuff.
And you've got a wild red tail around.
Yeah, it's like not fearful at all. You got a kestrel or something. You're trying to
well, to your point,
hacking a bird at your house, not happening.
No, yeah. To your point, when Tahlia's training her red tail, or we do a lot of rope pulling. We haven't really talked about that, but my preferred exercise technique is pulling rope. And so we'll be out in the yard pulling rope, and the first thing I do is go out there and whistle. Now red tail shows up, and then I throw her something to eat, and she hauls it off, and then I know I've cleared the runway.
Right, yeah. That's cool. I'm trying to do the same thing at my house with a barred owl.
Oh, cool. Yeah.
A little more benign than a female red tail, though.
I mean, it grabbed that rabbit and just put its feet on it for like 2 seconds and then let go because the dogs were barking. And that rabbit was like on the ground, spazzing out, twitching, like one grab from those feet and it was like dead.
Oh, wow.
So they're pretty powerful, I guess, with the feet.
Yeah.
And then I was able to like walk right up to the fence to it. I've been serving it quail. Like if I have quail baggies around, like I can't help myself.
Yeah, exactly.
I would just go out and just like chuck it out. And I'm just like standing out there. My wife's text. She's like, what the heck are you doing out there? Yeah. And then like I send her a video of a barred owl.
That stuff's really fun.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah.
I've got at my dentist office, the dental hygienist there knows of me in the relationship, and she's got barred owls in the backyard. And so the local pet shop gets too many mice, and Deborah is her name. And so we get those mice, and I gave them to the hygienist, and she goes out and throws it out for the barred owls.
Yeah.
And she now has the barred owl taking dead mice out of her hands.
Wow.
Yeah. It's their barred owls for like all over social media, like social media, like it's crazy. Barred owls and red shoulders. There's like hundreds of videos of hundreds of different people. Like the one guy now, I caught on to him where he's like on his porch with like a giant, like one of those giant, like, dog people gloves, like, they're going to like get rabies dogs. And he's got that. He's got like a mouse, and then the barred owl comes out of the dark and grabs it. And then like, I followed the guy or whatever. And I'm not like one of those guys that's going to be like, that's illegal. I'm like, whatever, have fun. Sure. And then I haven't seen anything on his page for a long time just because I haven't like looked or anything. And then a video of his popped up, and now he's got the thing like in his house on the glove, and it's like eating the mouse on his glove, and he's like, I can't believe it.
That's how it starts. Yeah.
And then the one kid, he's got sick edits where he works at like a crawfish factory or so whatever. And he goes out and he does like dances, and he like puts the crayfish on the ground. And then he does like this thing, like a runway pilot. And then he goes like this with the music. And as he goes like this, he times it so that the red shoulder scoops up the crawfish as he's going like this.
Air traffic control.
Yeah. It's like sick. Like, it's just like they're so easily manipulated, those birds, for whatever reason.
So if they're so easily trained, what do you guys think? Do they have any potential in falconry?
No, negative.
He's not.
I didn't ask. I said you guys. I was
trained, but
I think
barred
owls. They just make great pets around the landscape. They're just awesome.
Yeah.
For whatever reason, I just don't have. It's not. The thing is, for me, like bang for buck, right? Like I love goshawks, but bang for buck, man, a really good game hawk and red tail is pretty hard to beat. Like they're just awesome. I still have interest in big falcons too, and I've trained a bunch of them. But for just, especially with the kids, right? Like fun, just going out and doing stuff. I mean, the style of flight compared to say a really efficient Harris hawk or something like that, you catch probably a lot more stuff with the Harris hawk. But man, I mean, around here with, big dramatic flights from high up in fir trees and following the dogs and all that kind of stuff. I mean, well, I'll always have goshawks around, but man, flying a red tail is awesome.
Red tails are flying bricks.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah,
they are.
I love red tails. Absolutely love them.
Yeah.
And my appreciation for them has grown. What's that, Steve? What'd you say? I'm sorry, Steve.
Red tails are flying brick when they're in really great shape, like the red tail you have and Tahlia and Seth fly. They work their way up to the top of the trees. The red tails that aren't in very good shape, we call them 45-degree red tails. They just slope so down, just don't catch them. But the birds are in good shape. They're on the move. They catch the wind. They wait on. They slope soar. They're just awesome.
Oh yeah.
Well, we don't have that here. They hunt out of the trees here.
Yeah, us too.
Yes, do. Yeah. But we've got a few places that are bluff, or if the trees are high enough and in the wind direction, the wind will hit the trees and will create a wave, and the red tails will fly along that wave a bit and then hunt.
Yeah, they're super versatile. We got a guy who took me on my first hunt ever as like a 12, 13-year-old kid, Mike Ottinger. He's got one bird that's like 20 years old, and that thing, for whatever reason, like it just loves to soar. Mm-hmm. And it's not like just catching a thermal to take off on them. Like it does it all the time, like in an open area. And it'll go up like over the trees, and then just, he'll flush a rabbit and it will just coming down like out west.
Somebody else,
show you guys this.
Somebody else to have on, I've mentioned before, is Mike Clark. And that crowd that went back, 30 years ago, they were slope soaring, flying red tails. And he's taking that same passion. He flies his golden eagle that way. And Mike's a great artist, good musician. He's retired now from the LA Zoo and conservation. He's been instrumental in California condor recovery.
Mm-hmm.
He's a big fan of the show.
Yeah, Mike's a huge fan of the show. He's just a ball of joy, that guy.
Yeah,
I wanted to show you guys. The listeners are going to be able to see that. Does that come through?
I can see it's a passage red tail on something, but I can't tell what it is.
There it is. Yes,
skunk.
A skunk.
No.
Just kidding.
It's a big black southeastern fox squirrel.
Okay. God, I was like, oh boy, yeah.
I finally got a red tail big enough to catch
squirrel,
those.
Man.
Yeah,
fox
they're huge.
Squirrels. With my goshawks, I never caught a fox squirrel. I caught eastern grays back there, and every time the fox squirrels, both goshawks that I hunted with, they knew that it was kind of big and dangerous, and they chase them, grab them, let it go. But I never put one fox squirrel in the bag.
Yeah, that's a goal of mine too, Steve. But no, back to Mike Clark. I don't want him to get upset because those guys out there are real sensitive. Those guys out there. So we've been trying to get Mike on, and he seemed interested at first, and then wanted to do maybe we can get like some crowd support, because he wanted to do the Road to Bakersfield guys, like reunion on the show with all those guys.
That'd be great.
It'd be epic, but. He's I don't understand. Maybe it's just like the weather out there. It's so casual and there's game all over that they're real soft, and they get real offended by the tiniest little things, and then they hold grudges. I don't know what the deal is. So
Mike is working his way into retirement. He's got a beautiful place, a ranch on the eastern side of the Sierras, and getting settled in. And he's a
good guy. I've spoken on the phone with him about with an imprint goshawk, how there's sometimes that awkward period about getting them to finish on the baggie, finish on the lure, and then like on their own accord, jump up to your glove.
Yeah.
And, sometimes they jump anywhere but on your glove.
Yeah.
And like, they'll try to jump on like a little stick or a twig or a piece of grass rather than just jump on your glove. Like I've dealt with that a couple different times. And Mike he's real good about getting like birds to do that. And he talked me through it, and it was very helpful advice. So there's no animosity with Mike in them. It's just like,
I'll work on him.
I think if you put in a good word, maybe he would consider it.
Yeah.
But he's like, he would be an excellent guest. He's
eccentric in a really good way.
Yes. Yeah, he is. And we'd be honored to have him on the show, but there's only, how many times am I going to ask? You know what I mean?
Because what he did, in the condor recovery was, it was in no small part due to but he figured out how to incubate and hatch baby condors and also some bunch of behavior stuff. And
yes, so we'll work on that in the background.
Yeah. Taking part in recovery of condor, that's admirable. I mean, they number in the hundreds still, right?
Yeah, I'm not sure.
Yeah,
I think I have his hat on.
I was just going to say, you got the hat on there. Yeah, they're fascinating birds.
Funny thing about the condor, when my dad was a kid in the mountains of West Virginia, he said that he saw it once, and there was, it was big news where he lived in the hills, is that there was a giant bird flying around in West Virginia, and they were calling it a thunderbird, like the Native American legend.
All right.
And he was like, knowing what he knows now, he thinks that it was a condor.
Yeah, or a turkey vulture.
They can get up and move.
Yeah. You guys, going back to that same squirrel, I just wanted to show you real quick. You guys will appreciate this. We caught that squirrel, and then the temperature just plunged, and it started blowing snow. And it snows here very rarely. But when I got home, my daughter came out to greet me, and look, that's her holding it like knee deep in snow.
Jeez, that thing is a monster.
Those
3 feet long. Yeah.
Those fox squirrels was with Steve Coffer. And we'd been hawking, following this meandering creek that he's got jumping ducks. And with this one corner, we went around, and down below us is the cornfield. The corn had been cut down. I looked out there, and I could see there was a red tail on the ground, and couldn't quite make out what was going on. And it looked like there was a squirrel, and the red tail's jumping around. And we stopped, and it was a great big fox squirrel like that. It was standing up with its arms out like this, challenging the red tail.
Wow.
And the red tail was jumping around, like trying to come in, and the squirrel didn't run. It was like, come on.
It's like standing off a grizzly bear.
And then the red tail went, nope, and just got up and flew off, and the squirrel kept feeding.
Wow. Yeah, they're like that, right? They stand and fight, and unlike the gray squirrels that are like just running for their hole or somewhere.
Yeah.
The fox squirrels like apparently will just stop and like try to fight your bird.
It's like it was a sumo wrestler, moving around, waiting for them to, tie up.
Yeah. What else? I think those anteaters do that in the Amazon, right? They stand up and they go like this.
Yeah, you're right about that. Yeah, you're right about that.
And apparently, as unintimidating as they seem, those front claws, like they have so much leverage that if you actually do try to go in on them, they'll like latch those things onto you and then just
tear you up
just dig in you and rip your arm off with those.
They say wild sloths will mess you up too. If you think, you see a cute little sloth and you try to pick it up, they said they'll tear into you with their claws.
This is proof. Falconry is a natural history sport. Yeah,
that's right.
Yeah.
Because you're learning about all different kinds of stuff. But speaking of natural history stuff, Seth, we have to touch on it because anything to do with goshawks and especially albitus goshawks are of particular interest to us on this show for whatever reason. It wasn't your reason for being there, but you witnessed wild albitus goshawks in their natural habitat at one point.
Yeah, I mean, I guess so. We saw wild goshawks in Siberia, and they were from at a distance, from my perspective, pretty blonde. But I mean, interestingly, I don't really have very much interest in them. It's not that I wouldn't be interested in them. It's just that I haven't. That wasn't the reason. For being there. By the time I saw them, we were more worried about actually just getting out of the tundra all in one piece. And then by the time, in most of the summer where we were that summer, we were too far north. It wasn't until we got south into the taiga that we started coming across those birds. And so the most I can really say is like, hey, yeah, I've seen them, but that's about it.
Oh, okay. I mean, it's still more than 99% of falconers in the the basically.
Don't get me wrong. I would jump at the chance to go back and track them down and find nests and get them and import them or whatever. Right. But yeah.
I mean, but the importing secondary, I've tried this before and maybe I just don't know where to look. If you go online and you try to look up albitus goshawk habitat, feeding, like their natural history, there's almost no information about them.
So are the true like albitus ones interspersed with the normal morphology ones?
Albitus comes in. They're like gyrfalcons. They come in all different shapes and sizes, so they can look completely like a European bird.
Yeah.
But they can present themselves in different shades. But their morphology is completely different, though. Like that's just like a fact. Even when you fly them, you can see that they have different tendencies and the way they act and behave. They're very interesting birds.
I can add something in here, just from the literature, where those birds live. There are 11 time zones from, in Europe going across through Asia, and they live in a very cold desert. There's very little rainfall. And so the forests they live in are not like these forests. And they've evolved to that very open, they're kind of a short-winged gerfalcon.
Yes.
In the way they move, hunt in the landscape. And I had the opportunity to handle a few of them. And in this landscape we're in here, our North American goshawks, short-rounded wings, quick wing beats, are by far more suited than the
albitus ones.
Yeah, for sure.
They they're in the Arctic tundra. We'd flush these Arctic hares up there.
It's cool.
I would absolutely love to go chase those things with a hawk. Holy crap, they are monsters. And you can chase them as far as you can keep track of them, right? I mean, there's nowhere for them to go.
Right.
It would be. I didn't really see anything hunting them when I was there. We were doing peregrine falcon stuff, peregrine falcon and red-breasted geese, but we would flush these hares and they would get up and run, and it's just like this donkey running around out there. It would be super exciting to chase those things.
So is it like a subspecies of like a snowshoe hare kind of thing, or completely different species altogether?
It's like a great big white-tailed jackrabbit, but shorter limbs, right? More dense. Yeah.
Bergman's rule.
Yep. And they're bigger than their weight by weight. I think they're bigger than a white-tailed jackrabbit.
Really? Yeah. The whitetails are like ginormous, right? Like close to 10 pounds, some of them.
Yeah.
That's insane. That's crazy. A rabbit that's like 10 pounds.
And they're here in America, Casey. We could go catch them this year.
Yeah.
I know.
Yeah, you'd have to.
Steve, what you were saying about the albitus goshawks and their habits of flying like a gyrfalcon, you really get a glimpse of that even here when you see somebody flying an albitus. Is that they really excel when something breaks out across
open.
Across the open ground.
I had, when I was on San Juan Island, memories coming back, is that people would send me their birds. They got tired of whatever. And I got a Finnish goshawk to fly. And then and there was a guy by the name of Steve Baptiste and Mike Nardeau that ended up on San Juan Island. I had 2 American females that I was flying. And behaviorally, we started playing games. So we have rabbits in warrens, just like they have in England, put ferrets down and flush them out. And Baptiste and I got to the point we could fly his German bird and the American bird literally wingtip to wingtip. And they were like hareshawks. They'd honor each other when they were on game. They weren't trying to hurt each other. And the American bird was way quicker off the fist and getting thing. The European bird had a higher top end, took longer. And the Finnish female I flew, it was really obvious the difference between a German bird and those Finnish birds. They're like the albitus, they had longer wings and more falcon-like. And behaviorally they were different as well. Is that the European birds, especially that Finn, was more red-tail-like, was more easier to handle, not as quick to bait and move. And now they've taxonomically separated them, as you know.
Yeah, they haven't recognized it.
Why do you think they're more red-tail-like in their behavior?
I think it has to do with that landscape that they're in. It's wide. It's really wide open with ravines with cover in them, and they're in an environment more red-tail-like or more gyrfalcon-like. They can see things that are distant. Things aren't sneaking up on them. Our North American birds, they're looking forward, but you got to be looking backward all the time. Whereas those birds, the gyrfalcons and those albitus are out in the wide open. They get in a spot and they're looking around, and there's not close quarters. So the ones that I handled and flew, I literally, you've heard, somebody's training the birds. Pretty soon you start acting like a goshawk, you're acting like a falcon. And it probably goes like with my granddaughter, AD doesn't fall far from the trees. So I'm literally aware of things going on around me all the time. I can't help it. Squirrel here, squirrel there, whatever. But when handling the birds, you take on the persona of the birds you're handling. Your nervous system gets into sync. And every time I pick up one of those European birds, especially the Finnish, or those compared to the American birds, I psychologically feel totally different.
You feel more calm?
Yeah, with the European birds.
Yeah, maybe that's why the eagle guys are so arrogant and no one's out to get them. They don't have to be afraid of anything. They're just a bunch of bullies. These guys.
I'm
just kidding.
King Franklin and Tika McNutt would come over to the house. Sometimes I'd have as many as 9 eagles to handle and work with.
That's
and
a lot.
Each one of them would have a personality and balls versus goldens. And I kind of have to go to kind of a meditative state because otherwise you could get hurt really bad.
Yeah.
And, but it was really fun.
Yeah. Just to add to that, about the European goshawks, Aaron, is there's no red tails there. So they basically are the red tail. They're filling the niche of a red tail.
Right. Yep. They can occupy that.
There is a lot of rough legs there.
That's right.
Nesting on the ground, nesting in small trees, and
but they got little dinky feet, though, don't they?
They do. They have little dinky feet. Although I will say, we saw goshawks in Kazakhstan too.
Really?
Yeah, and there are big species of eagle there.
Yeah, that's right.
Did you see Borat in Kazakhstan?
Did you see
Borat?
Yeah.
No one's thinking of Borat. Everyone's thinking of Khabib. Aaron.
The what?
I don't know. Do you guys know who Borat is? I'm going to guess Steve.
I know. Yeah, we know who Borat is. Yeah.
You know who Khabib Nurmagomedov? I don't even know how to say his last name. Anyways, the best fighter in the world.
Oh, the fighter. Yeah.
Khabib. Yeah. There's this line that he says, if your child is acting wimpy or having trouble, you send him 2-3 years to Kazakhstan. You come back, it's fine. You come back a man. That's what he said.
I mean, I will say that is a rough place to have to live.
Oh yeah. Those guys are. That's why they're taking over the MMA scene, because they're all just living this brutal existence. Yeah, and then they fight American guys that are,
I saw somebody said, was it Chael Sonnen said everybody's in UFC is going to have a beard and no mustache one day?
Yeah, that's what he says. Yeah, that's what he says. Yeah. Now that's a rough place. So you were there doing studies on behalf of Nick Fox's conservation organization, or?
No, that was actually different. I can't remember how I got connected with it. So there's a guy named Todd Katzner doing his PhD thesis on 4 species of eagle. And so there was several distinct forest or habitat types. There was the steppe, and then there was the forests. There was 2 different types of forest. And so across these 3 different ecosystems, they had 4 species. They had golden eagles, imperial eagles, white-tailed sea eagles, and steppe eagles. And so, basically, I got the job of going out there and climbing trees, and and helping collect data and whatnot. And so it's great, yeah, sign me up. I can't remember. I actually can't remember exactly how I made this connection, but it might have been through Nick, actually. It was. And we, so yeah, I went out there and lived in Kazakhstan with Todd for 4 months. And we ran a couple of Russian Ural motorcycles with sidecars on them and did all of our feeder work out of these sidecars. We had a field hand that was Kazakh guy that worked with us. And then we had a biologist named Yevgeny. Yevgeny, who was kind of like our guide for the forest. He was like our access to the various forests. And we spent all summer just running transects, climbing trees. I did a little project on ectoparasites in eagle species. You guys had that whole conversation about pine needles in the nest and stuff like that. And so I just did a little undergraduate 400 level, write my thesis paper on that when I was back there.
It's fascinating. What did you find?
Would this be appropriate for you to tell the story of how you kept the motorcycles operating? Instead of paying for the repair, you paid them.
A little lesson in capitalism. Yeah.
Yeah, it was great.
We had, what he's talking about is we had 2 bikes, right? And there was a Russian mechanic who was an alcoholic, and we'd have to pay, he'd have to buy the parts, and then we would pay him for the repair in American dollars. And Todd was organizing this thing, and God, I can't remember that guy's name. He did taxidermy too, but the problem was that you'd pay him and then he'd be drunk, so you couldn't do the repairs, and then it was always hard to get the parts, and then he would charge us for the parts, and then we would charge, and then he would charge so much for the repair, and we had all these problems where we'd have both bikes would be broken, and we'd do nothing but dissecting eagle pellets and keying out feathers, and it's driving me nuts. I can't get stuck in this, doing all these pellet dissections. I wanted to be out in the field climbing trees. And so I go, Todd, I got an idea. Let's just pay that guy $5 a day, any day that we have a bike that works, right? You get, if we have both bikes working, you have to do nothing. You get $5 a day, whatever it was some amount, right? But for every day, and if there's one bike broken and you're working on it, great, $5 a day. But if there's ever a day when we don't have a bike, then you don't get paid. Never miss another day. After that, no problems whatsoever. $5 a day, no problem at all. Never a broken bike. And he magically was able to fix stuff when not sober. It was great.
You had to get him on retainer and then put him on it
was we paid for all the parts still and whatnot. But yeah, that was pretty funny.
That's creative.
How did you find so many questions? I mean, it's just how did you find the nest? Did your guy that had access to the forest, he was the one who helped you find all the eagle nesting locations to do your surveys?
Yeah. Yevgeny knew a lot of the nests. And then we spent a lot of time in the springtime before, because we got there pretty early. There's still some snow around. And we spent a lot of time just surveying forests and looking for nests. And some of the nests are pretty easy, like steppe eagles, just nesting out and this yay high off the ground. Some of the imperial eagles were harder to find. The sea eagles tended to be much higher and much more exposed than the imperial eagles. The imperial eagles would sometimes nest back in the forest. But we saw, they would, on more than one occasion, I climbed into eagle nests and found live baby saker falcons.
Really?
Because they're just robbing saker nests and flying back to the nest with a baby saker falcon clutched in their foot, or live baby kestrels, same thing, right? The steppe eagles were super. They were easy, and of course, no climbing necessary. They're nesting 3 feet off the ground or less, kind of
like
thing.
Fruginous hawks.
Yeah, like a great big Fruginous hawk.
They even look like them too, kind of.
And they look like them. Yep.
Got a frog mouth.
Yeah, big old mouth.
Yeah.
They don't do anything for me, the steppe eagles. A lot of people like those.
That's one of the few exotic eagles that you could get in America if you really want.
I would imagine you could. If you had a lot of wide open sage country, I would imagine that they would be fun to hawk jackrabbits with. But again, I'm not. I'm always interested, but it's not something I'm going to go out of my. I couldn't see myself going out of my way to acquire a steppe eagle.
You couldn't see yourself paying $7,000, $9,000 for one.
And
is that right?
And you get a Fruginous hawk to do the same thing.
Yeah.
Bill Goldwyn with Muggsy. She was really good on jack.
Or a red tail.
Or a red tail just does everything. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
So now, is there anything else that we missed that we should discuss?
I don't know. Always. There's always something.
I know.
Yeah.
I feel like we're just...
Yeah.
We kind of just wanted to do one with all you guys, but full disclosure, Seth, we want to do one with focus on you.
Sure.
We would love that if you would come back on sometime relatively soon, actually.
There's some cool stuff that is worth talking because you guys love goshawks.
We'd like to get in it.
I wrote my senior paper in college. We did. So I majored just biology at Colorado College, and I took every field class I could take, and every project we centered around flying hawks. So my buddies that flew hawks with us in college, we wrote a whole block long project where we flew. We had a methodology that was complete bullshit, but I still got it past the professor, where we flew a Harris hawk and a goshawk and a red tail all at the same at cottontails and jackrabbits. I can't remember if we include quail in there or not, but we just came up with some completely BS methodology so that we could compare like hunting strategies and just like made shit up every day. Awesome. And all we did was just get up in the morning and go hawking and just make up data.
That's awesome. That's great.
Awesome. But the one project we actually did that had legs and turned out to be sort of meaningful was I was at the falconry meet in Lamar and ran into Pete Widener, and he was like, "Yeah, we've got this ranch. It was near his place there in Sheridan, actually near Bighorn." And he said it's a pheasant place, and it's unique because they're not shooting goshawks, and apparently they have all these goshawks showing up. And I really, really wanted to get a. In fact, Dad referenced a passage goshawk. That was a bird that I trapped. I went out there and trapped the goshawk that winter with Pete, a female, and actually, there's a hilarious Pete Widener story about that. But yeah. So that goshawk that Dad was talking about training. Actually, I trained that goshawk, but all the things he said was true. And so then I went back the next year, and what we did, and what's interesting to people who train goshawks, I think, is that there was a high concentration. So the most goshawks that I could say for sure were on property at any given time because I had transmitters on 7 of them.
Wow.
And then I knew where distinct other individuals without transmitters on them were. We had 11 goshawks in the study site at one time in the middle of winter. I mean, sometimes we were 10 below, 20 below zero. And these birds would, they would congregate in these draws where all the hawthorns were. And there was these different release sites. And then there was a great big pen where they reared pheasants. And goshawks would just stand in a line and eat on a pheasant on top of this pen, juveniles and adults, juveniles standing there screaming, talking to adults eating, and then adult would get full and fly off. And then another one would step on, they would walk over and be social. And it kind of made me realize that like a lot of what you talked about in terms of like how we handle juvenile birds, especially watching those juvenile birds interact with adults on kills, not being violent. They're clearly hungry, right? And there's a lot to do there. And some of those birds, we had transmitters on them. And Tom Meckley, who's passed now, but he, through some work with the Peregrine Fund, I think, continued to track some of those birds. And they had birds that went and nested in Yellowstones. They had birds that went all up into the interior Canada that we put transmitters on. I mean, there's a lot going on there in the wintertime in terms of goshawk social interaction that we definitely don't get a chance to see.
Wow. Yeah, that sounds like a fascinating study that like I'd love to read. Like that's crazy. Yeah, that they're not, you would just think their initial reaction would just be to like just try to bully each other off of the kill. But you're saying that they would basically wait their turn. Yeah,
they would basically wait their turn. And I mean, we saw times when Tiercel goshawk, this Tiercel goshawk would chase pheasants. The pheasant wouldn't want to just get up and leave and fly. The pheasant would fly around. It'd be this kind of a rat hunt. And when the pheasant would finally lose its nerve and try to go up and over the top of the pen, the goshawk would climb up over the top and kill it, and he'd be eating it on top. And I could never catch this Tiercel. We watched this Tiercel kill and observed him a whole bunch of times. I could never catch him. And we had other ones with transmitters on. Almost all of them Tiercels too. Very rare to catch a female there. And we the most effective traps were BCs. We would go find pheasant kills that were relatively easy to find and just put a noose carpet on or put them in a BC and then come back and they would get caught. And but this tiercel would kill a pheasant, and on more than one occasion, I watched them kill and eat part of the pheasant, and then as it left, the pheasant drag itself off the top of that and then get grabbed again by a juvenile, and then have the juvenile finally, it die while the juvenile was then eating it, and then have yet another juvenile come in and feed on it.
Wow. Oh my gosh.
Really, yeah.
That's super
I
interesting.
think it was a matter of there was just enough food there that it wasn't a huge deal.
Well, I think that they have. I think that just observationally, and that unique to that particular location. I think that they are, obviously hunting's risky, right? And they can't eat a whole pheasant, and they will go sit there on that thing. We flushed many goshawks looking for pheasants, where the goshawk is some number of feet away from a dead pheasant, just sitting back in the bushes, and you go in and bump the goshawk. It wasn't actually on the pheasant. It was just sitting there. You bump it. It's got a partial crop. You put the noose carpet on and then end up coming back, just run. We'd have 6 or 7 of them out. We'd have to do rounds constantly to make sure we didn't get a bird with like a frozen toe or something weird. Right. And then we put, Mike and the Peregrine Fund provided us with, little transmitters with sealed batteries and epoxy, and we would sew them onto the 2 center deck feathers. We weren't using backpacks or anything at that time, and I think they ended up. I think they had a 90-day life or something like that. A signal every 3 seconds or something weird.
I mean, so that was part of your college. Like that was a study you did, or?
Yep. So yeah, I did that. It was a study just to look at sort of like I still have the paper. It's actually written. It's actually right here. It's right here. What do we call it?
Is it published anywhere?
Went to school if
it's I don't know. Yeah, it was published. It's Winter Ecology of Goshawks in North Central Wyoming. I did it. My professor was Jim Anderson. You guys know that name? Jim Anderson was part of sort of some of the original crew with like Tom Cade and those guys that started the Peregrine Fund.
Okay. And
I was interested in Colorado College before I even knew this incredible, famous Peregrine Fund raptor conservationist. Jim Anderson was there, became good friends with him, and he mentored us to write this paper, and kind of pulled some strings because, the biology department at CC was very big on like, you have to come up with some reason why it's important to do, or they won't let you do it. And Jim's like, that's a load of shit. This sounds like fun as hell. Let's let these kids go do it.
It has something to do with global warming, and you'll get funding.
Yeah, right. Yeah, if you couldn't attach it to global warming, you couldn't do the project. That's that's exactly why I'm not around.
Or somehow you're gonna help ban fur trapping or something. And they'll give you funding.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, we could have done this with this many raptors on the ground in there. Jaw traps should absolutely be illegal.
Right. Yeah.
Joke. Yes. I'm kidding.
No, but yeah.
But that's the kind of bullshit, right?
Yeah. You got it. Yeah. It's just like so many studies that get canned because it doesn't have some agenda behind it, which is crazy.
Correct. Yeah. And the same thing happened when I did that ectoparasite study in Kazakhstan. I had to come up. I just realized it's like writing grants, right? And I'm like, oh God, I want to do it because it seems interesting. That's enough, but if you want to get funded, right, then you have to come up with so that was the idea. They're trying to train you to be a professional scientist.
Yeah. It's too bad you can't just get like private funding from some like wealthy guy that's just like has more money than he knows what to do with, and he could just fund you to do real research. Cause that's like the thing about like the wind turbines and stuff. And like, we have like data on it, like how many birds are killed and stuff like that, and displacement from like solar fields and stuff. And like, you have to think like those studies are still happening, even though they're not getting like traditional funding. So like, imagine if there was like traditional funding, what you'd actually find and how much stuff is probably buried because of the agendas. It's right. It's kind of, it's a little bit unsettling that it has to be an agenda of some kind.
especially because there's just it is important and interesting. The study that Nick funded in Siberia, and that trip to Siberia was funded by Nick Fox in the National Aviation Research Center, and that was to trap and put backpack transmitters on Calidus peregrines. So I was there to trap falcons and to be a field assistant to this guy John Quinn out of Oxford, who was doing a PhD thesis. That was funded by the Arabs, and so they don't need a reason.
Yeah, they don't care if it's interesting and cool.
They can pour money into whatever they want to pour money into.
Yeah, exactly.
They've got a thing for falcons, though. So
yeah, exactly. Yeah.
We need to find these rich guys who have a thing for goshawks.
That's right. I went to Nick sent me to Abu Dhabi for a month. We took 18 falcons from Northumberland to Abu Dhabi and trained them there in the desert. And we were training falcons flying. This guy Chris, I can't remember his name last name right now. Chris Martin. No, Chris. Anyway, I was there with this guy Chris, and we were training all these falcons every day. And I was there with Martin Patterson. Chris was in Spain. I was there with Martin Patterson. We were flying falcons every day, and we ran out of time. And Sheikh Mohammed and this gentleman named Muhammad Abouadi, they would show up every evening, and they would roll out a big carpet, and they would have dates and coffee and everything, and they would want to hear a report about all the falcons every day. And they were getting ready for this big hunting trip to Morocco. And a guy named this guy Khalifa, who I had become friends with, he said he kept asking about these two sakerettes, these two male sakers that were for his kid. I just couldn't get around to flying them. It was just not enough. It's too hot in the middle of the day. You can fly in the morning, you can fly in the evening. I just can't get like 18 falcons flown every day. And they weren't the birds they wanted to take hawking in Morocco, so they were getting left out. And they were his kids' falcons, right? So he's like, well, what do you need? And he said, what if we had lights, right? What if we had lights here? And I said, well, I mean, that's great, but we have a lamp on this building, and that's about it. I can't turn this bird loose in the darkness in the desert. And he goes, oh, no, but what about, like a stadium? If we had like big floodlights and everything. I said, yeah, well, theoretically, down the road in subsequent years, whatever. 3 days later, floodlights.
Yes.
3 days later, they had equipment out there, and they put these things up and wide. And 3 days later, I was flying Sakerette Falcons after dark in stadium lights out there. It was
so cool. That's so sick.
Or whatever money they want into whatever.
Oh my gosh, that's so awesome. Yeah, I've always wanted to visit over there. I heard like Abu Dhabi is like very safe, and like, they're very hospitable, and
I
stuff like that.
You keep in mind though, this was 30 years ago. I mean, I wasn't even in college yet. I mean, so this was a long time ago, and
easy.
Yeah. And I was like 19 or something. Yeah.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
That's all. Yeah. I'd be a little.
Iran is nice this time of year, Casey.
Iran's nice this time of year.
Yeah. I'd be a little nervous though, because you never know what goes on there. Like, how is my son's bird doing? And you're like, I didn't get a chance to fly him. And then he just pulls out like this like, like Jafar knife. He just like chopped your finger off or something. Your eternal reward.
But that's another thing. Like they funded all this research out of Dubai. And I mean, Nick could tell you more about this, but they had a, it's in his book, but they had a Hobara breeding facility there. Right. They were doing research. They're trying to breed Hobara because of their interests. The royal family in Abu Dhabi was really interested in this conservation, right? I mean, they want to have Hobara around, and because they want to hunt them, and they put a lot of money into breeding Hobara there. We went out and did a flying demonstration for them in Dubai and flew hawks and got to meet those people and whatnot. So
that's so neat. Yeah, it's like that with everything. I think just as Americans, we just don't realize that why we have such a beautiful ecosystem in a lot of areas is because of the forced funding and the laws that have it. In other countries, there's like Africa, like, it's the private funding of, hunting ranches on millions of acres that funds the protection of the species that are on that land because people want to hunt them. That's, and then that's where the protection comes from. So
that's why isn't it true agreement?
Yeah. Isn't it true that the only reason we have GPS transmitters by Marshall in the United States is basically because the Arabs funded all the research behind it and funded like getting that started? I thought I heard something about that.
Well, the project that we did in Siberia back then was funded by the Arabs, and I can tell you, I actually couldn't tell you who manufactured those transmitters, but that technology has come a long ways. I mean, when we were there, those transmitters, I have a picture of it someplace, but they were roughly 2 inches long, roughly an inch by an inch square, had a kind of a big sort of a transmitter that came back that looked like like an ovipositor off of a giant cricket or something. And we used Teflon, like we use to mount backpacks now to come across the way and come up underneath around the legs. And the design that Nick had come up with was with these two little metal flexible pieces that went over the shoulders, which now we know is completely unnecessary. You can just run the Teflon across. But I'm sure we killed those falcons. I mean, but you've got to go through this process of figuring it out. Now, I will say that 2 falcons that year that I put transmitters on made it all the way into North Africa. They had satellite pings from those falcons. They had to have been able to hunt and kill things for themselves to make it from Siberia all the way into Northern Africa. But long term, it couldn't have been great, right?
Right. Yeah.
I was at a raptor research conference a few years ago, and there was a display on telemetry, and they have some that they can glue to a monarch butterfly, like solar-powered telemetry that can go on a monarch butterfly.
That's insane.
That's nuts. What kind of range?
No idea.
probably didn't transmit. It probably reflected.
Maybe, yeah.
That reflected.
And these were satellite transmitters, and so they had to be bigger, and they had to have a bigger power source. I mean, hell, I didn't want to carry those things around, much less the Falcons, right? But I mean, Nick had done a bunch of experiments because they had a huge flight chamber there at Penclin Farm in Wales, and Nick had put the transmitters on those birds, and I helped with that when I was there in Wales, and they would he would fly them, and so it wasn't like this was some sight unseen type thing. There was some effort that went into it, and they did get data. But those Calidus peregrines, I mean, they were, you've seen them, right? They're just like pure white chested.
I think so, yeah.
And they would be consistently. There was an eyrie every single mile up and down the river.
Wow.
Yeah, their population was very.
You were climbing in with ropes and stuff like that, and
you just walk in.
Oh, you just walk in?
Yeah, because there's really not any cliffs there. So it was interesting. John was doing his study was the peregrines nest on the ground first. They are earlier than the geese, so the peregrines will come in where the tundra breaks into the river, right? And as it breaks into the river, there's these little declivities where the falcon will make a scrape and then make an eyrie, and then the red-breasted geese, which is a small goose, it's a goose that's only a little bit bigger than like a mallard, right? Big mallard.
That's cool.
And they nest in a colony, and they would intentionally come put their colonies right around. You'd have this peregrine eyrie right smack in the middle of a red-breasted goose colony. And then the peregrine would provide protection for the goose colony by harassing foxes and roughlegs and eagles and anything else that might want to predate the goose colony, right?
That makes sense.
We would do all these 24-hour observations just sitting there, staring through a spotting scope, smoking cigarettes, looking at falcons and red-breasted geese, and there'd be all these cool interactions and whatnot. But you could literally, with the exception of one eyrie, you could basically walk into every eyrie.
Wow. Jeez. I mean, that's so fascinating. And it makes such sense that they would intentionally do that. And then it's a prey source for the peregrines, obviously, I'm assuming. So they're basically like paying a tribute.
They don't? No. You know, it's one of the neatest things about peregrine observations on those Calidus falcons was I never saw anything bigger than a large shorebird come back to the nest.
Really?
Yeah. And the tiercel, I mean, because remember, 24-hour daylight, right?
Yeah.
So you'd be sitting there and, mom would be incubating eggs and the tiercel would be just sitting on a little hummock of tundra someplace. And all of a sudden he'd kind of like, wake up a little bit, start bobbing his head and looking and rouse and take a shit. And then he'd just be like, and just go and just be gone. And then come back 30 minutes later carrying some shorebird. But you got to remember that time of year, it is just millions upon millions of bird life. I mean, just like every type of small shorebird, sandpiper, whatever you can imagine. And I mean, I didn't care either. Like they were all just LBJs to me. All I cared about was falcons. And I mean, I was just a kid. I just wasn't very serious about anything I was doing. Right. I just wanted to watch falcons catch stuff. And we got to see lots of it. I mean, they would ring up shorebirds and kill them, and you could watch the whole thing through a spotting scope. But other than falcons, harassing the geese when they'd come in, we never saw a goose killed and eaten by a falcon.
Wow. Well, maybe even the female when she finally, because the tiercel would do most of the hunting, right? And then,
I don't think it's again. It wasn't my PhD thesis, and B, I was only there for one summer. But I don't think it was a matter of they couldn't do it. Although, those Calidus falcons, they're not real big. And number one, and number two is that the geese are a pretty good sized bird, right? So would certainly be some risk. And I just don't think they had to do it because there's just so much other stuff out there to eat, right?
It was too easy, yeah. And it's risky.
And perhaps, and perhaps better quality. But they, they were, they were, the tundra is just, that time of year is just got, everything is either really living or really dying. I mean, it's such a short window to produce up there. You know what's interesting is talk about illegal stuff that you might have to cut out of your podcast. I found and smuggled a mastodon tusk back into the country.
Oh, good for you! That's awesome.
Awesome.
Good for you. Yeah, and, that should be totally legal.
It was like
where is it? It's got to be in your office. Where is it? Let me see it.
Well, the only thing that I have left of it. So two things happened. So the Russian guy that was with Yasha was like so the first thing that happened is we were way up this river looking for falcons and we ran out of gas. So their plan for us to have fuel was to go access old Cold War depots where there was fuel dumps. And we got our boat up this river to this place where there was an old fuel dump and it was all gone. So then we had to walk. I mean, it was so stupid.
Oh my gosh.
So we had to walk all the way back and we're walking on the Pura River and there's a big slough where the tundra had broke free and there's a mastodon femur sticking out of the side of the.
Oh my gosh.
And I excavated this thing and I've got a picture of me with this. It's only like this long, this big mastodon femur. And I was all excited about it, as you would imagine. And then Yasha was like, oh, I know where there's a tooth. And the language barrier, he didn't know the word for tusk. And he kept saying and so we walked out to it. And the thing was about 6 feet long, but it had been all broken up. And the end of it was all broomed out. It had because the tip was sticking out of the tundra. And we had to dig down in to find intact tusk. And then I walked back to the station, got a saw, and cut a chunk of it about this big.
Oh, it's so awesome.
Intact, but I couldn't get it in my bag. So I cut it in half again. So I had 2 chunks of it like this big of mastodon ivory. And I gave one to my brother that he still has, which actually might be in my barn.
Yeah.
And then I gave the other one to my grandfather. And my grandfather was a metallurgist. And he, well, I don't know about metallurgist. He was a metal worker. Yeah. And machinist. Thank you. And he had a metal lathe and he cut this mastodon tusk up into chunks that didn't have checking. And then he turned them into pen parts on a metal lathe and made, so what I have is an ivory pen set made by my grandfather.
Oh, that's so sick.
Yeah.
How much did me and Aaron have to chip in together to get one of those pens?
One of those. Yeah.
Oh my gosh, that's sick. Yeah, I was thinking pistol grips for like a 1911 or something.
That would be good.
That'd be sick.
But I will tell you though, not like a very short number of years later, the Taimyr Peninsula right near there is where they found that baby mastodon that was frozen perfectly. It's actually on display.
With the flowers in its mouth still.
Yes.
Stomach or mouth or whatever.
Yeah, I watched a documentary about that where these guys are going under the ground in those frozen things and spraying and pulling it out. It's a full documentary. It's probably in the same exact area in Russia.
Yeah.
And they're like literally risking their lives. They're like crawling in these like half melting like tunnels that are like dripping, and they're in there like scraping out bones and stuff. Yeah. It's like, yes, we could die any moment, but you know, it pays the bills. And it's like crazy. Yeah. They're just like ripping cigs and just like crawling around in a cave that's melting around them. Yeah, it's nuts.
The lifestyle up there, the Russians, you know, there's like in I don't know Russian, but in the saying in Russian rhymes, but it doesn't rhyme in English, obviously. But it's something to the extent that the tundra man will give you the shirt off his back, but he'll cut your throat for a lot less.
Right.
And we ended up, we were supposed to radio we flew in on a Russian Mi-8 helicopter, and we were supposed to radio John. It was just me and John and Yasha. We were supposed to radio for when we wanted to come out, and they were going to come get us. And Yasha's idea of bringing a radio was to bring 3 or 4 radios, none of which worked. And then while we were there, put them all together to create a working radio, and we could never do it. So the only way we communicated with Nick, because Nick had all the whatever necessary equipment you needed to monitor the Falcons. So the only way he knew, we were supposed to report in and we never did. And the only way he knew that we were still alive up there was because I kept turning transmitters on.
And I kept talking to Nick.
And my parents are freaking out.
Yeah.
But
wow.
And because tell me a transmitter came on in a different location.
So then we were trying to get out of there.
You're still alive. I saw they turned the transmitter on yesterday. That'll be all right.
Yeah, exactly. Nothing to see here. A resourceful American. So we ended up traveling back to Norilsk by boat. And that was its own whole like 3-week adventure. But it was like 1,000 kilometers on a 25 horse motor and a Zodiac. It was wild. And,
wow.
And we ran across all these people that were just living up there in the tundra. They've never seen any foreigners, never been out of the tundra, fugitives that have like escaped into the tundra and are just like living on the lam. No kidding.
Wow.
And then the one guy, I have a picture up, he's just subsistence living, like fixing nets and eating reindeer in the winter. And John went back the next year and they found that guy had hung himself.
Oh,
and then we had one group of guys who were reindeer traders at the confluence of the Piasna River and the Pur River. And they just had a dead guy in their freeze. They had a tundra freezer, like a hole dug in the wall. And they had a guy that had gone out to use the bathroom in the middle of winter and lost the line and froze to death out there. And they had him in the freezer waiting to send him back to Norilsk.
Oh my God. They just had him in there like playing cars, like just frozen. Like this.
It's got a full house. Yeah.
Oh my God. It's a different world up there, man. It really is. Different.
Yeah. It just.
Yeah, we have got to dig more into this stuff with you, Seth.
Yeah, Seth, please give us a time and a date so you can come back on.
Okay, yeah, let me know.
Because like the 3-week journey on the river. Like that's, we can't just like, we've been going for 3 hours. We can't dive into that now, but I feel like we have
There's
to.
a lot of boredom. Monotony.
The one thing you'll have to ask him about, if you're going to go up there to trap peregrines, whatever, you think you need pigeons, wouldn't you?
It makes sense.
Oh, God.
Yeah. And
I don't know.
And so pigeons, and then get to thinking, well, how about a dog? Didn't you take a dog up there?
Yeah, they had a dog. Yasha had a dog. I'll share. I can tell you guys all these stories. Yeah. All right.
Oh, it sounds.
So
I'm thinking dog near the nest, and then mist nets around it to get the pigeon.
You got it.
That's what I would do. Yeah, because they do that with owls on the beach. You could trap all the peregrines you want with an owl on a perch and a bunch of mist nets.
Yep, exactly.
They come in and try to whack it, and then they get caught in the net.
Yep, that's exactly right. Yep.
That's all. Yeah, I mean, that's. Oh, yeah, we got to dive into that, Seth.
All right.
Steve,
next week.
Is there? We had this episode with your family on. Is there anything you want to say about falconry and family?
You guys are right in the middle of it.
That's right.
Yeah, we're living it right now.
Yeah, you're living it right now.
Yeah.
It has a way of creating a really interesting.
Oh yeah, even for the ones that are not all that interested, like rotting things in the refrigerator, seeing the hawks around. Yeah, because a lot of the conditioning games I played was to be at home with the rest of my family. That I was there, to help with homework, and then
it exposes kids to the natural world and probably a lot of beneficial bacteria.
Yeah.
Yeah,
that's right.
Yeah. My experience though is being outside with the birds, even if you are home, is still a problem for some reason. You're here, but you're not actually here.
You can do no right.
The other part of it is I had a great, wife, lover, mother. Kathy was a really awesome mother.
She was as great a mom as she was, and everything else. She was extraordinarily tolerant of my dad and all of our stuff. And
no drinking problems, no time in bars, just flying hawks and raising kids.
That's it.
Running a business.
Well, she was married to Steve though, so I'm sure Steve did some operant conditioning to create that behavior from her.
You would. Elsa and Tahlia.
Oh yeah.
And I shaped a potbelly pig to ring some hawk bells, hung some hawk bells on a table. We had a pot, Rosie the pig. She was in the house, and got her set up on a clicker, and I shaped her behavior to go ring the hawk bells. You weren't there, but
I was there. I remember all that.
You remember all that.
Yeah.
Isaac
when she wanted to be fed, she'd ring the bell.
Yeah, that's a whole nother story. Sure. But that's a potbelly pig that a harris hawk tried to catch and was so weirded out by the pig.
Yes, that's
that right. This guy was raising potbelly pigs, and he was butchering them small, like a little Cornish game pig. He was cooking them whole, like they're like. And I was like, man, I got to have one of those. I want to eat one of those things. And we brought it home, and then my sister fell in love with it. So we had this pet pig that was a disaster that Dad let in the house. And my mom tolerated that too. So
no, the pig, believe it or not,
they crawl in a sleeping bag, but she come in the house, and I wanted to teach the concepts of operant conditioning. And so literally clicker trained it to find a bell and ring it.
Yeah.
And the second oldest, Isaac, realized he got pissed and he stomped out of the room. When I went to talk to him, he says, "That's the way you raised us."
Isaac was less than appreciative of the.
I will say this about potbelly pigs in the house: they are probably one of the best pets that you can get.
That's right.
Awesome.
The house. They pee in a litter. They go to the bathroom in a litter pan.
That's right.
And do you have one?
I had one, for a while.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, like it would literally, like we'd be on the couch watching a movie. It'd be on the couch laying next to you like a dog, and if you stop scratching it, it would take its nose and like smash you with its nose. And then
my other daughter really wants one.
Oh, they're great. And then when it had to go to the bathroom, it would just like leap off the couch and then just like trot with its little hoofs and its little tail. And it would go behind, and I had a litter pan in there, and it would jump in the litter pan, and it would be in there dropping its little pellets, peeing, and then it would like jump out and then run back up, jump on the couch, and then snuggle up next to you again.
Yeah.
What do you think a Muslim would think about you snuggling with a pig?
What was that?
It's haram.
I was saying I was asking Casey what a Muslim would think about him snuggling with a pig inside his house.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it's haram. It's definitely haram, but they are really good. I had to crate train it. It wouldn't. It was really annoying. I had to put it in the garage. This is when I was living at my sponsor's house.
I think you guys need to turn a potbelly pig into a rabbit pig.
Yeah,
get that thing.
I mean, you can train those things to do anything. I mean, I'd cut it loose in a field. It would just rip across the field full speed. And then I'd be like, Penelope, come! And it would like spin. It would like make a big loop like this, and then run back to you, and like it would sit and everything. Yeah, it was like a dog. It was awesome.
Yeah,
that's great.
Did you ever have a boar, potbelly pig?
Oh,
no, this is a female.
I had a boar for a short period of time.
Yeah,
they
is it rough?
Stink like crazy, and those tusks.
Yeah,
and I tried to keep it in the garage, and with its tusks, it just rubbed a hole in the plywood and made a hole about that big and got out.
Oh yeah, yeah. They're a little rough. Like it would if it was nudging up against like my sister. I remember one time my sister like she took her leg and like went to like kind of push it like, all right, enough, and then the thing was like and like tried to bit her leg, and like it's like a dog, and you just got to train it like, you can't do that, and you would discipline it, and it would like it knew you were disciplining it, and then it wouldn't do it anymore. It was hilarious. It was the coolest pet ever.
Great.
Yeah. I had to get rid of it, unfortunately.
Well, thank you, gentlemen, for coming on.
Yeah, thank you guys.
There will be more to follow.
Yes, 100%.
Yeah, it was fun.
And then, so a little homework for the show. So Seth's going to come back on, and then Seth and or Steve is going to put in a good word with the legendary Michael Clark to come on the show.
That'll have to be Dad. I don't know Mike Clark.
Oh yes, yeah. I talked to him. I'm in text message with Mike almost daily.
Okay, yeah. Mike's a good guy.
Yeah, he's a great guy. He's in that phase in his retirement right now. Getting his place set up. And,
okay.
Yeah. I've dropped a few comments to him.
Cool.
The guy's brilliant.
Yeah, great guy. Yeah, he's definitely, he'd be an awesome guest for the show, but it's just a matter of getting him on.
Yeah. We'll work on it because he'll be a great asset, not just to you, but to everybody else that listens.
Just like you, Steve. You've changed my mind on a lot of things, and it just I guess I can't I'm just trying to I'm basically thanking you for, because now it's just us talking a couple years ago about that one bird I had, and you talking me through behavioral problems. It's now it's literally just a daily part of my routine is bird just doing things in the field. Just behavioral and not reinforcing bad behavior and shaping good behavior. It's and even with my own kids, man, it's literally the same.
Yeah.
Just bad behavior, following through on discipline, good behavior, and encouraging it. And it's literally all the same principles. It's crazy. Yeah. And it's true. So thank you, Steve, for your time, and Seth also. Thank you.
Well, thank you guys for doing this. Yeah. It's just really, really great experience just to get to sit here with my dad and my daughter and talk Hawks with you guys. So
thanks
a lot.
You're welcome. Anytime.